The Earth is very flat.
What's going on, everyone? Thursday, July 22nd, 2021. This is Brandon, host of Brandon's Show. Shout out to everybody in chat. We've got Anders Ace. What's up, dude? Flying Vostik, Bill G, Smurfer Girl Whatevs, Whitesword, Alexander Lightwater, Brandon Cook, my biggest fan, Sean Hawkins, page 42, Rune Thornton. You guys are busy tonight. And page 42 was first. Congratulations, Paige. Sounds good. Thank you, Bill G. What's going on, everyone? How are you doing tonight? Good? Good. Critical Truther just dropped in. Seek and find. What's up, guys? All right. What do we got going on tonight? Well, open panel, open chat. We'll let people decide what the topic is. Kind of go with the flow. I'm sure I got a few bags of tricks up my sleeve. A few bags of tricks up my sleeve. If the conversation dies down. And but let me tell you, I had the weirdest dream last night. I dreamt that somebody sent me an email. I can't remember who it is. And it was like a typewritten word for word, what's it called? Dictation? Transcript of me talking during one of the shows, and like every other word was and they had written all that out phonetically, and they were like telling me, dude, you got a real problem. I don't think I say that stuff too much, but I'm trying to remember who it was. It was somebody who is always in chat, so I don't know, weird dreams getting in my head, I guess. Anyway, let's go see what's going on in Discord.
An experience I've had in California when I lived there, we used to have 2 or 3 electric companies we could go through, and then basically one company took over everything, and we didn't get a choice between who we were paying to, and which means their prices can go up as high as they want to.
Yes, yeah, right now government has. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say that when there is competition, prices tend to go down.
It's like right now government has monopoly on force. If you were to take that monopoly away and be like, you can contract with whoever you want. Like really, at the end of the day, police didn't stop the number of home robberies. Security systems did.
You think when there's different?
True.
You think when there's different?
True, I believe that.
You think when there's different companies, they're getting rid of monopolies, bro? All the people own the same. It's the same people owning all the shit. They just open up different companies so it doesn't look like a monopoly.
Just like cell phone companies, networks. But the thing is that there's so many of them because they want people to have the option. Because as long as they get people to pay, they're winning. So if they make one company that charges $100 a month, and then they make some offshoot company with 60% of the same care that they have at their big company, and they're only charging $45 a month, they're still getting revenue, which is why they have all these small companies. They realize that they may start getting smaller chunks of money from those companies, but it's still revenue. So in the same sense, the more competition, the lower the prices get. That's what happens.
Except I don't think police should be the kinds of thing that is commercialized like that, privatized. It should be.
I don't either. Yeah, if you privatize a police force, you privatize a military force. Basically, is what you're doing. They set their own laws. They set their own rules. What happens when a community decides we don't want a police force? Because believe it or not, this can happen. It's not like a far-fetched thing. A community can hire their own security, and I mean gated communities do it all the time, and they work with police, but it doesn't mean they have to. But the problem is if you don't agree with whatever security system or police force you've hired, you don't have any other options.
Well, it's also returning to sheriffs, because before a sheriff was elected, and if they were really bad at their job, someone else got elected.
Sheriffs are elected.
A police officer is not elected. They're just appointed by a mayor, who then will pick their cronies. So that's a problem. These
no, that's not how policemen are selected.
And
Like
police
cronies.
and sheriff.
Yeah,
police
by
and
their
sheriff,
cronies through the executive.
No,
branch.
remember-
they're not selected by cronies.
police and sheriffs are not the same thing.
Yeah, not even close, Brenda. You need to educate yourself on this.
Police-
I'm educating you. Police officers are not selected as cronies, right? They're hired. They're hired according to requirements. You have to have certain degrees. You have to pass tests. You have to pass training.
You have to have lower than 100 IQ and all that. Yep.
I don't know about that, but
There
you
was
have to have
actually,
certain
you never heard about that?
requirements.
There was a lawsuit about that a while back. Can't remember what police force it was, but they were specifically not hiring people with higher IQs. They said it wasn't a good fit for the job.
Yeah, it was like a social IQ. I remember like they tried to preface the words there. Like they would show somebody suffering. They'd be like, "Hey, is this person happy or sad, or what's going on with this person in their day-to-day life?" And they want people who are basically face blind to emotion.
Okay, but
Where did you get that from?
Is this one district, one place, or is this a state? Is this where is this coming from?
They don't know. It's just some conspiracy site that they
I
saw
thought
on
he
the
was
internet.
asking somebody who brought it up, since you didn't bring it up. That's what I thought. But you must have got a different impression, Brenda.
Is it
I
not
don't
flat
think it was
Earth
like
now,
a nationwide
Brandon?
thing or anything. It was just a story that went around a while back. I don't know if it's the hiring practices around the world.
It may have been just one district in one or one
You don't know.
city
You have no
or
fucking
something like
clue.
that.
You just said that we made it up.
Oh,
and now
yeah.
you're acting like you fucking know about
Somebody
it.
made it up. Somebody
No,
made it
it's
up.
not made
I
up.
didn't.
No,
Oh,
you don't know what the fuck you're talking
say
about.
so.
ABC News might know what they're talking about. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about, but you're acting like you do, as usual. Court okays barring high IQs for cops. ABC News. A man who bid to become a police officer was rejected after he scored too high on an intelligence test, has lost an appeal in his federal lawsuit against the city. So this was a circuit court appeals case at this time. And,
So what police departments objectively are seeking people with lower IQs?
You want me to list all of the police departments? I don't know. You just said that this was made up.
No, I wasn't actually talking about that. I was talking about something somebody else said about, I think it was Crit saying that they seek people with lower social IQs.
Oh, okay.
I'm wondering where Crit got that information from.
This was the
Yeah,
New
you made the
London
claim.
police force. They thought people with an IQ too high would get bored with the police work, which may be true. I don't know.
Maybe. Someone who's a genius probably should be doing something other than police work.
You know why?
Well, people can
Because
do whatever they want.
they're at least likely to figure out what was actually going on. That's why they don't want people with high IQs. They want people that are stupid that will never realize that they're actually stealing from people.
Your mic is really low, mate.
Yeah, that is really bad, Mike. It sounds like you're talking underwater.
Anyway, what's going on, guys?
What's up, Brandon?
We're live now, obviously. It's open panel, open topic. I don't have much planned for tonight. I got some links and shit we can bring up if we get bored, but if anybody has a particular topic that they wanted to discuss, go ahead.
Did you ever show them that thing falling on the ISS?
The which one? The globe? The beach ball thing?
Nah, it was like a clip or something. Remember? And it dropped.
Oh,
There was another good thing on TikTok too, where all the guys are always trying to lift their heads vertical. You know, have their head vertically placed. Like it's a thing on wires, and when they're shooting movies and stuff, it's in the Matrix. It's in all kinds of movies. Whenever they're on wires, it's like a natural thing where you want to lean your head up. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, because of the gravity, right? Their heads turn or something like that.
It's just like a natural. You want to like, have your head in the right orientation.
I think this is the one you're talking about.
You mean they
holding
want to
that
look
thing
at
in
the
his hand
camera?
with the wire? I'm sharing it on my screen. I should be.
It's like from a GI Joe movie, right? Where they're running across the floor, but they weren't actually pretending like they were running across the side of a cliff.
Yeah, that one right there, Brandon. She straight up, it dropped. I mean, what? No?
Yeah, I'm sure they could make something up like, oh, he pushed it,
Yeah.
had momentum or some shit. But
Yeah.
it looks like he dropped it. Yeah.
How do you explain the hour-long videos of them going through different hallway, different turns, turning the corner? There's no way that could be done with wires.
So did you want to address this or no? You're going to bring up something else? That's one of your bullshit argument strategies, your debate tactic. You suck.
His right hand, he's holding that. What is that? What is it that he's holding anyway?
It's a thingamajobber.
The thingamajobber, but do we know what that is?
No.
So he's holding it in his left hand, right?
Yep.
These are
And
important details.
then the fingers on his right hand knock it out of his left hand, don't they?
Let's take a look. It's going to show us in slow.
Why is that surprising?
It looks like he drops it. That's all.
Another one in the.
His right hand knocks it out of his left hand. He doesn't drop it.
I don't know. Looks to me like they drop it.
And then he drops it. Yeah.
Looks to me like it just dropped.
Well, you don't think that if you hit something in 0G, it's going to move?
Well,
Why don't they ever
he's
drop
raising
things
his
up on this
hand, the hand that
ISS?
supposedly hits it, Brenda? And so the
Yeah, it doesn't
momentum
look to me
should
like
push it upwards, right? Why does it push it down?
It doesn't look to me like they hit it down. I don't know.
How come nothing ever drops up in the ISS, Brenda?
There is video of things going up in the ISS.
Yes. Find us one,
Dropping
Brenda, because that's a great point, Aaron. Find us somebody dropping something up where they hit it with their hand like this or something and it goes up. Find us just one example. Anyway, to answer your question about the hour-long things, I'm sure they have all kinds of different tricks that they use. So
Yeah, they
I
could
can't
put
tell you
cuts in
the
it to where
exact
you would.
tricks they
Yeah,
use.
but some things just aren't physically possible.
Have you ever been to the movies? Have you seen some of the stuff that they do in movies now?
Yeah.
Okay. So you know that practical and computer graphics are a thing.
Yeah.
All right. You've been to a magic show ever, like David Copperfield, or you've seen one on TV?
Well, I've seen them on TV. I've never been to a magic show. I mean, not from a national performer.
For this middle piece here.
So you know that optical illusion.
Piece going into the kitchen. We getting a thing that's got different levels, or
What? Jeremy, is your mic open? You know that optical illusions are a thing, and people are pretty good at doing that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Those are things.
Yeah.
That doesn't prove that something you see that you can't understand is an optical illusion or CGI. That's called affirming the consequent.
Well, it doesn't prove that it is real either. You certainly can't prove that it's real.
No. Right. We
Just
can't
offering
prove
you
anything. We can give you degrees of certain confidence. We can give degrees of confidence.
Well, let's hear this. What's your degree of confidence that everything we see in the ISS is real?
Not if somebody's dying. Sean is dying. He's choking to death.
My bad.
Better call the ambulance.
Go ahead, Brenda. What's your degree of confidence? No?
Oh, I'm having cheese and crackers.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Well, that's all right. We'll move on.
So the degree of confidence is that given the preponderance of all the evidence, I have a very high, greater than 90% degree of confidence that everything we see on the ISS is real and is not faked, because faking it would simply be either prohibitively expensive or simply not really possible at all.
But so why do you have the 10% then?
Well, I don't know. It's just a guess.
So there is a possibility, and it is possible.
Yeah, it could be green pixies. Could be magic.
10%
Could be
to cover
magic.
green pixies. You think there's that high a chance that there's green pixies out there? You're such a bullshitter.
In reasoning, unless you're dealing with math, you're just dealing with degrees of confidence. You're not dealing with certainty, right? So it'd be 90, 95, 99%, whatever. Doesn't matter.
What would be the cost prohibitive if they print the money and have as much money as they want? What would be limiting their ability to do green screens, wires, virtual graphic technology, on editing, which they can do on the fly editing, live editing? What would be any conflict financially or technologically with being able to pull all of that off?
NASA can't spend all the money at once. They're one of the smallest agencies of the government.
Wrong.
No, it's the biggest.
Yeah, they are. They're one of the smallest agencies of the U.S. federal government. Most other agencies get lots more money than they do.
Not even close, Brenda. NASA outstrips almost all other executive agencies combined.
Well, it also wouldn't even have to be quote unquote NASA's paying for it, meaning these people that are lying to us, if they have the amount of control they have over the Federal Reserve and everything else, that's why I said they print the money. So whoever at that level of clandestine, quote unquote, secret society, whatever they're doing, I wouldn't necessarily assume that they're just going into the NASA checkbook and buying green screens, meaning that they can fund it in whatever way they want with money that they. I mean, at the top of this system, they don't have money. They have infinite money. Meaning they don't. It's not like they have a trillion or something. They have as much money as they want to use for anything they want, which is why they're doing this. It's why they're doing this entire deception, so that they have that position.
That's just not true. The government doesn't have unlimited money. The government has.
Brenda, can you fix your echo, please?
The government doesn't have unlimited. Okay, all right.
I actually read in one of my mom's textbooks. She was doing a college course, and it was an economics book. And it literally said the government will never go broke because they can just print as much money as they want. In a college level text.
You should ask Zimbabwe if governments can go broke or not.
Guys, we should just stop talking to her because she just jumps from one thing to the other. Every single time she says something, it's bullshit. It's just like,
It's not bullshit. Zimbabwe went bankrupt. The Zimbabwe dollar was like trillions of U.S. dollars because they had runaway inflation because they didn't control government spending.
Yeah, I'm with you, Brandon. I personally would prefer not to live stream with Brenda. Nothing against her particularly, but it's just not the type of content I'm interested in live streaming with myself. But I know it's your show, so it's your call. But
you want me to debunk every single thing you say? It's easy.
So anyway, anybody else got another topic that they want to talk about? Sean G, what's going on in the world, man?
Yeah, we really don't have anything to do.
Yeah,
with,
I've just invited Ale, La Gobbler, actually, Brandon. She wants to know about the flat. What?
How did you know my name?
Gobelina?
Yeah, you said my name earlier. Just?
La Gobelina.
No, you said Ellie.
No, I didn't.
You did?
Yes, you did.
I said
How'd you know
Ale.
that, Chemo? How'd you know that, Chemo?
Oh, okay.
Ale. Oh, Ale. Oh, so that's fine. Got you.
What's up, LA? How you doing?
Hi. How you doing? I'm good.
Good.
That's called
She wants to know
doxing
about
yourself.
she wants to know about the flat Earth. She's a glober, but she thinks. What do you think about flat? Tell them, Goblin.
Oh, really looked into it. So you probably won't sway me to not be a glober, to be honest. But like, I don't know. But I'm open to discussion.
Okay.
Good. Yeah.
That's a good place to be then. Definitely. Is there anything, any particular reason that you strongly feel that the Earth's a globe, or are you still on the fence?
I just think there's enough logical information there to sort of give me the impression that it probably just is.
Sorry, have you heard the
Not
Globers
right.
Have you heard the
Yeah, she's
Globers arguments?
been in Gems
no-
today, and they went over it. And
Oh, don't let her in Gems.
no, she's been in there already. She started in there, then she's coming here now to hear the other side, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If there's enough logical information, can you give me one piece of logical information that indicates to you that you are on a spinning ball?
No, there's loads. There's like, so the fact that there have been people that have gone to the International Space Station and have seen that the Earth is in fact spherical.
Go easy on her, guys. Go easy on her. I'm just
You know
saying,
what I mean? Like I don't
brand new,
understand how.
brand new.
Can I
Like
ask you a question?
how do you counter that?
I'll
People have
try.
gone up there and seen it with their own eyes.
I try. So people have been there and seen it with their own eyes. So for you, that's kind of anecdotal information. Can you go to the sky where they are?
It's possible.
Right, let's put it
I
like
probably
this.
won't ever, but it's
Yeah.
possible to do.
It's possible. It's possible if you work for a space agency, or if you're private and got all of the money in the world, Bezos.
More like
Well, I
$350,000.
don't know. I mean, space. This is the thing. I think a lot of this could be diminished somewhat through the rise of space tourism. I think as more people go to space, it's like how many people are going to go up there, and how many people are going to keep the secret that the Earth's flat.
Let me just
Hold on,
let me
let her
just follow
finish.
this.
Let her finish.
Yeah.
Oh, I was finished.
I get the idea of in the future we'll have space tourism, but primarily we've got lots of stories and information about space that we can't verify. So we can't go to space, and primarily we get videos and images and data from this place called space that we can't go to, right? Now, can images and data be, manipulated?
Yeah, they can, like definitely, but I do sort of think why would they? What's the point?
Right.
Like if the Earth was
before we
flat,
start putting before we start putting like intent and motive onto this, let's just look at the standard of evidence that we've got at the moment. We've got images and pictures from a place that we can't go up to and verify for ourselves.
But you can.
I hold tight 2 seconds. I'm just speaking to her, and you can waffle on in a moment. But at the moment, for the vast population of the Earth, let's say 99.9% of us, we ain't gone to space, so we can't verify these images and pictures. So not a good standard of evidence. But the primary issue with any evidence that comes from this region of the vacuum of space is it seems to defy entropy. Now, we all understand...
It does not.
Right, hold on. The dispersal of gas into a volume is something that we can witness happening all of the time, because this is what gas does. It disperses into the available volume. That volume will be the container. If you remove the container, the gas will then continue dispersing. Now, the only way that you can keep gas in a place is to physically contain it there. If out in space is a vacuum, then the gas that we breathe, that is pressurized, by the way, that is the consequence of
being contained is uncontained and would disperse into the volume of space.
It's not
Yeah,
impossible.
but
It's not
what about?
impossible.
Totally
Yeah, but you
incorrect.
can't.
Gravity.
Yeah, but what about you can't have a pressure gradient in a contained space
Hold
with a
on.
Where'd
gas.
you get the pressure in the first place?
So can we have?
You're saying that we can't have a pressure gradient in a container. It's the only way that I could demonstrate to you a pressure gradient. First, I need the container for the gas to be in. Then all I need to do is impart energy into the system. Heat, for example. Maybe 2 or 3 different gases and a production area for the gases.
Yeah, but
And then
if you have 2 or 3 different gases, that's different because heat will affect those differently. If you have one gas in an enclosed container, you can't have a pressure gradient.
How do you know that? Have you tried it?
Well, you
But
can.
Not me
in fact, you
personally,
do.
no, but other people have. Like, you can't just go, "Oh, have you tried it?" Like, have you tried it? That's all you guys do. Like, any argument I've heard.
Well, you don't hold on. You don't
literally
need to
all it
start
has
that. I'm
been-
trying to keep this very
Sounds
civil.
like
You
you've
can
been
have
in
a
this
conversation,
conversation
and
a
it's
while.
okay if you disagree, and this goes for the rest of the panel
No,
too.
but every conversation that I've been in so far, anyone will
No,
make a
we don't
point.
need to go there.
And,
You don't need to
no,
start
no,
talking
no,
about
listen,
past
I'm
conversations.
talking.
We can have a
Yeah,
conversation in
okay,
here, and
okay, but I'm
and
talking now.
yeah, no, actually, I'm
So,
talking now.
yeah, but
I'm
actually
the
I'm
host of the
talking.
show, so when I talk,
The host of
then
the show, yeah,
it overrules
that's
the
hilarious.
rest of the panel just by necessity. So if you could just be quiet for a minute. Let's keep it civil. Let's have a back and forth conversation. You don't need to bring up past conversations. Everybody else, please don't attack her. Let's see what you think. I'm interested in what you think. I'm not interested in talking about past conversations.
Why is it that a lot of the time, the only argument really is, have you observed it? Have you personally observed it? No. And like, no, I haven't personally measured the curvature of the Earth. No, I haven't personally been into the International Space Station and seen the Earth is a sphere. But there are people that have been there.
Brian, mute.
On the pressure,
Mute, Brian.
just real quick, I gotta go.
Your
But
mic,
on
Brian.
the pressure,
Brian, your mic. You gotta fix your mic. Sorry.
No, Brian.
That's
Brandon
even
was
better.
having a conversation.
I easily made a pressure gradient inside a container, very easily, within about 60 feet of pressure of a pipe, very easily. And as far as ISS goes, just look at the go to top 10 ISS blunders, and anybody with common sense will see that it's a damn joke. They don't get it right live all the time, and when they mess up, it's obvious. They've dropped screws, balls, all kinds of shit. They all have the reflex to try and jerk down and pick it up, but there's just so many blunders by now. If you see them, they'll try and hide them from you and tell you a bunch of bull crap, but you see them and you got common sense, you'll put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, and one other thing,
Like, my
I
question is
understand.
sort of like, I feel like I'm quite a, like, well, I mean, obviously to me, like, you see things in a different way logically, but to me, I'm quite like a realistic, logical person that would just sort of take things as, yeah, that's a reasonable explanation for that. Like, I've never really been into like conspiracy theories and the idea. Obviously, I do think that, like, some things are being hidden from us, but to the extent that the entire shape of the Earth is being hidden from us, and they're covering it up to the extent that they are completely falsifying things like the ISS, like images of the Earth that's been taken, like stuff like that. I think my question would be just like, why would they do that? What's the point?
Why
Yeah,
would they
we
lie?
can give you some, our theories by
Money.
why. Obviously, we may not have the exact answers because if they are perpetrating a deception, we could only guess at why they're perpetrating that deception. But I understand the point of view you're coming from. You see all this information coming from the space agencies, from the government, and you think, yeah, it all sounds logical. It sounds plausible. I'm seeing videos. I'm seeing pictures. Why shouldn't I believe it? Well, in my life and my experience being on this earth, there's one thing that I'm pretty certain about, and that is that the government and the media and the people in power cannot be trusted. They've proven themselves over and over again that they don't deserve our trust, to the point where I don't trust them on anything. So that is why you'll hear myself and other people demand this higher standard of evidence, because we want to actually see it proven, myself, experimentally, not taking any photos or videos from them, not taking their word on anything, not accepting plausible explanations. They have a higher bar because they're proven liars.
But do you not think that Pete, like something like that, to cover something like that up is just would be like the
Like
biggest
what?
operation ever, like the fact that the earth is flat, like
Yes.
you know, it'd be quite easy for us to just figure that out, surely. So
I don't know
why,
about
like,
that, because we've been trying to come up with a way
Yeah,
to
I would.
physically measure the surface of the earth without any assumptions about optics or the way light behaves, or assuming that we're on a ball or assuming we're on flat. And it's been very difficult for us to come up with a practical experiment that will give us the answer once and for all. There's always assumptions,
Brandon,
presuppositions that we have to accept before we
yeah,
can
Brandon,
ever get to a conclusion.
Can I ask you a question, Brandon? I know you guys hate my argument, but when does the water level stop making a straight line?
Who said we hate your argument? No one hates your argument. I don't. That's my personal belief that a water level does make it. Well, a water level, first of all, just gives you 2 points that are the same altitude above the earth, or sea level, let's say, right? And you connect those, it's always going to be a straight line. The question is whether that straight line is all the same height above sea level, or if it's just the 2 points. So that is more difficult to prove than the fact that it'll create a straight line when you connect those, or that the 2 points are the same distance above the surface of the Earth. I hope that makes sense.
I'm new here, and I just wanted to say something about what she just said.
Yeah, go for it.
I want to.
She said people say this all the time. They say, "Oh, how can they cover it up? What, like, it would come out, right? It's coming out. It's coming out right now. We're trying to tell people."
But do you not think that it would come out from someone directly involved in it? Like, do you think that everyone involved in something like that would be able to keep the secrets?
Brandon, may I say something, guys?
I'm next.
She has her mindset already. She's not trying to.
Well, hold on a minute. Now, I just asked her not to talk about previous conversations, and let's just have a conversation and see where we think.
Well, you can hear it on her defensive of the subjects already.
That's okay, Silent Zero. I mean, we've all got our.
I agree.
Here. I don't know.
I'm just saying she's not trying to learn what we had to say. She's on the defensive position.
That's okay. I kind of feel on the defensive position too. I think we always feel on the defensive position when someone's challenging what we think.
Yeah, I am trying to learn. I just don't personally understand, and this is what I want answering. Like, I don't personally understand how something like that wouldn't be leaked. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't get that. Like, all these people that are being told that they, like, you know, the people that go, like, well, supposedly, I guess, go up into the International Space Station, and they have to pretend that they've seen this big round Earth, and all of these people.
It is leaked. It is leaked in the NASA documents. It tells you it's a flat, non-rotating plane. It's leaked. That Buzz, whatever his name is, he said he didn't go to the moon to a little girl. They leak it. They tell you to your face. You got to be paying attention. That's not really how that works.
I think her point is, why hasn't there been a whistleblower that's come out and said,
like
I was an astronaut and the Earth is flat? My answer would be, I don't know. But if this is a deception, which I believe it is, that's my personal opinion, this would be the biggest deception, as you've said, and it would be the most tightly controlled. There hasn't been that many people who have gone up to quote unquote space, even as high as the International Space Station, right?
And also there was a communist Russian so-called
that's what I was
astronaut
gonna
from
point out.
Poland. He's from Poland, and he said it's flat.
Yeah, so an astronaut has come out and said that it's flat.
Yeah, there was
I
some
would quite like
contention
to see
about whether
something
or not
like
he was
that.
joking around, so I don't count that in my
I
head
think in
as
these
solid
cases,
whistleblowing.
Brandon's not hard to control less than say 600 people that are said to have gone high enough into the sky, further enough than you and me. Now, 600 people since 1969. It's not a lot of people to control. Now, you can control people in multiple different ways. You don't have to put a gun to their head. And some people just believe the lie, want to go along with the lie, already know the truth anyway, and want to help with the deception. It's not hard to filter the staff that you have working for your organisation. Right? It's not hard to get these people just to lie to you.
How do you control all the people involved in everything related to like all science?
Yeah,
that's
but
done
this
in space.
Well,
or all
I can just
practical private enterprise that's in space.
I understand that.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that? You mean the people
What do I mean?
who build things? Yeah.
No,
Do you mean
I
that generic?
So for example, right?
What
all,
science?
All GPS satellites, all telecommunication satellites, all
My
Earth
man, let's
observing
hear some of the
satellites.
science.
That's radar and antennas in the ground.
Okay,
Let's
so
hear
except
some of that
when we
science
can
that you
look, when we can like find where those signals are coming from, and they're not coming from a ground station, coming from space. Like
they're not.
Well, they are.
Oh,
They're
okay,
not.
hold on. So
They are.
so you've got
Well, I
obviously
can
there's
send a,
something up in the atmosphere, GPS that's giving us a signal. Okay.
Constantly moving.
What exactly does that prove, and why would everybody involved in GPS equipment need to be lying? I think you're
Sure,
not
I'll
narrowing
explain,
it
I'll
down
explain.
enough to the few people who would really have to be in on the lie.
Yeah, sure. So I'll explain how it's actually a vast majority of people. So for one, right, we know where the satellite signals are coming from. They're coming from the sky, and they're not just a fixed point in the sky. It's a very fast-moving point in the sky.
Can you make your points without assumption, please? Come on.
It's not an assumption. It's an observation.
The Russian cosmonaut came out. The Russian cosmonaut came out.
You're declaring. Listen. When you say we know that that thing is coming from space, that's a declaration.
Yes.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
we
That's what we're arguing here.
Well, we know that.
No, you don't.
Yes, we do. If you would let me
No,
finish.
you don't.
Right? I can explain. If you would stop interrupting and you would let me finish, I could explain. That's usually how conversations work. So,
came out and said it's flat. A Russian cosmonaut decorated come out and said that they've never been to space.
Okay.
Hold
When
on.
you're done,
He was in the middle of making his point about GPS satellites. So go ahead.
Sorry, my
finish.
mic's fucked up. I'm sorry, man.
That's all right.
No, it's fine. It's fine. You know, it's fine. People can spurg, whatever. So anyway, we know that these GPS signals are coming from at least the sky at a minimum. And the reason why we know that is because we can observe where they're coming from. You can get these cool things called radio dishes, right? Where they're parabolic radio dishes, meaning they only really accept radio signals from a certain direction. And guess what? If you really wanted to go through all the effort, you could point one where a GPS satellite is supposed to be, and you would find the GPS signal coming from that point in the sky. So we can reasonably confirm, right, that GPS signals come from some area of the sky.
Yeah.
Now, if it's not in fact low Earth or medium Earth orbiting satellites, which is where all current GPS satellites, at least according to everyone involved in the GPS system, say they are, we would have to assume there is obviously something else generating them. The common things that have been
Get to your point.
the common explanations given are that it's a plane or that it's a balloon or something like that. The issue with those explanations is that they're way too slow.
So you're getting a signal from something up in the sky, and
That's
then you're
moving at a
doing what with
common
that
rate.
signal? I don't think anybody's going to argue that that's
Well,
not
so
possible
my-
to get a signal.
Yeah,
The
so
GP
the contention is, right, is that all other attempts to explain the phenomenon fail.
What
in terms
attempts?
of they're not able to
What
explain
phenomenon are we
all
explaining, and what attempts are you
the
referring to?
GPS signals coming from the sky moving at an incredibly fast
What
speed.
if it's a natural satellite? How do you know it's a man-made
Define natural satellite.
Like
on a
the
flat
moon,
Earth.
like the moon, or
Well, these aren't coming from the
Hold
moon.
on a minute. It doesn't even need to be a natural satellite. We know that we can put equipment up in the fucking sky. No one's arguing against that.
Yes,
So
yes,
what?
but the difference is, right, the things that we put up in the sky aren't moving at, I don't know, Mach 20.
The true technology we haven't been talking about because we know the military lie to us, and that's
The
military.
military doesn't have anything that goes Mach 20.
You see,
You don't
Brandon,
know
why you
everything
have
the
to stop
military
him?
has.
Okay, well,
you see why you have.
it would be
This is one of
physically
these fucking
impossible
guys.
for the
Brandon,
military to even
do you
have something
see
like
why
that.
you?
So,
This is one
Do
of
you
these
see,
guys
guys,
that-
why you have to stop him when they start assuming things? Because then he goes too deep into his explanation. Now you're gonna start questioning from the beginning. So you stop
This
it
is
from
one
the
of the-
beginning.
Hold on,
This
if
is
you
one
go
of
to
these
the
fucking. Hey, hey,
on a
yo,
non-rotating
yo,
globe.
I'm trying to
Brian,
get
your
back to
mic
the
is
point.
really bad, man.
Yeah,
It's like,
Yo,
Brian.
this is one of those guys. This is one of those guys that thinks he knows all the technology that all the government has on Earth ever.
if your only explanation is that there's some magical thing that no one knows about that is actually responsible, you might as well just say that it's magic
then he
fucking
just
pixies.
straw manned you. That's all he can
Yeah,
do.
you just
no,
told
no,
us
no.
that you
That's
knew the
that's what.
military.
No. What he
You
said.
just
What
told
he
me that.
said.
Hey,
No. What
hey,
he said
you
is.
just told me
Hold
that
on.
the
What
military
he
didn't
said
have
was.
that.
What
Hey,
he said
hello,
was.
can you
What
hear
he
me?
said was right. Is
Yo,
that?
can you hear me?
Yes,
New
I can.
guy.
I'm just finishing my point. So what I'm saying is right. The only explanation that you can possibly give is there is some like fantastical technology that
Cartesian coordinates. That's the only
that
explanation
no
you
one
get.
is
Map
aware
it
of
on whatever you want.
outside. There is no one aware of outside of this program that's doing this, which like is able to do what we see, or in other words, it's something completely unknown that just solves my issue. Right.
How do you know the
Dude,
speed
if
of
you
it?
look at the projectiles, man, they say that they're over a flat, non-rotating Earth. All the other declassified
I don't know why you're
documents
bringing up
in the early,
unrelated.
listen, the early GPS has the Earth as pear-shaped, and then they have the South Atlantic anomaly and the South Pacific
I still
anomaly.
don't know why you're bringing up
For all the
irrelevant
anomalies they
information.
come up with,
Hey,
making them use more than one
GPS
computer to even get the
is an
information.
I still
upgraded
don't know why you're
Loran
bringing up
system,
irrelevant
Ariel.
information.
How about Ariel? Address the fact that the Loran system works on the same principles.
Define the Loran system.
So you don't even know what the Loran system is?
The long
You should
range.
look into that first.
I mean, you might be mispronouncing it. I might know what it is, but I don't know
I
off the
might.
top
Yeah,
of
I
my
might.
head
You
what
might
that
want to
is.
look into LORAN, the Loran system.
No,
Just look into it.
Loran is how it's pronounced. Loran.
Yeah, that really tells you that the globalists claim trilateration.
Yeah, RC Meisty, how do you calibrate your water level? Dick.
Where's that pear-shaped Earth in all the pictures we get? The devil's in the details, guys. The first thing I looked at was pictures in space because I thought this was going to be a short argument. And when you look, I seen Paul on the plane, and I cross-referenced his details, and they all say for the Epic, the Discovery, the Himawari, they're all multi satellite, informational data mapped out on the blue marble, on the 2004
Okay,
NASA
so
blue
just
marble.
looking
And then
at
updated, I think the 2000
Yeah, good point,
NASA,
Brian. There's only like two
Okay.
blue marble pictures that they're claiming are
Okay.
actual shots of Earth,
Well,
right?
that's not true.
Like 72 and
No.
2012 or something. I think.
There's ones taken every 10 minutes. But talking about the Lorans, that's what you brought up.
No, you're not going to just kind of throw that story in there because we looked at that before,
story.
and those are composite
That's not my
images.
story, at least.
Those are
No.
not.
Okay.
pictures.
Have you heard of
They're
the
one
have
every
you
10 minutes,
have
they're not
you
composite.
have you heard of the Himawari satellites? Do you know what those are?
We don't have time for this.
Man, you're not up
Sorry,
to date,
dude.
bud. You are not up to date with the arguments, man.
We never heard of
They
that.
admit
We never
on
heard of the
Go
Himawari.
to
What is
Himawari's
it?
website, bro. They admit that it's overlaid on the NASA blue marble color data set. They don't even deny it, bro. That was in the
I would
details.
recommend you
just don't do
guys.
the work.
I would recommend you just Google page and we can read all page. It's the same shit. No critical thinking from these people at all. You're talking to a web page, pretty much.
Yeah. Sorry, Ariel,
Yeah,
I
real-
muted you. I mean, if you don't think we know about the Himawari,
Yeah, he
then-
just wants to come in here and chant.
well,
like a
and
way
he's
for you to
coming in here and he
unplug-
thinks we haven't done any research at all, and he's going to blow our minds by bringing up the Himawari. Go lurk some more and watch the show before you come in here and think you're the smartest dude on the fucking panel, dude.
I love how he knew what technology the military does and doesn't have. That's fucking amazing.
Yeah, I like that too. That was awesome.
Ridiculous. I
Knows
know.
everything.
Well, the
Well,
thing
that-
is, if they had pictures, we wouldn't be in here if they had all these live pictures of the Earth. I mean, when people bring that up, that means they have done zero research into the subject. They've just listened to people. The Himawari was the first person we discovered that had in their website, they overlaid their shit on the blue marble. And when we show them these videos, they just turn their head, stick their fingers in their ears, like no.
That's correct. Yeah.
It's insanity, dude. It's insanity. But people who are open to hear it and go, reference it and go verify it, and them are people who will listen.
The same thing happened with Antarctica. Remember, there was a guy who he made like an hour and a half video, like explain step by step and going to the web pages and everything. And these people don't even care to watch that thing. They just dismiss it, right? They don't like I say, they don't care about the conversation.
Yeah.
No, they'll say things like,
no matter what we
can go to
say.
Antarctica. Anybody can do it. Well,
Yeah, you got 20 grand?
anybody can do it if you're willing to incur any of the fines and fees and do all of the extra work that they require you to do to fill things out to go. Or you can go with an associated company or corporation, and you're not allowed to just go to Antarctica. How much would you trust me, or how disappointed would you be if I said, hey, I'm going to take you to England, and then we arrived at the airport and you weren't allowed to leave the airport? That's not you going to England. That's retarded.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to let you
You're going to go down there and go on a
Antarctica.
guided tour, right? They're going to take you around.
You're going to pet a penguin,
Right.
touch a barber pole, and then shoot back.
You're going to be watched basically the entire time, and if you step out of line, pretty sure they're going to fine you and or throw you in jail and or get you off away from Antarctica.
And anybody in this community, they're going to fucking be watching. I promise you that. Anyway.
So no, you can't just go to Antarctica. Idiots.
I wouldn't want to go, to be honest with you. Just think of how much of a pain in the ass that would be. I hate to be cold too.
Hey, just remember, none of us are getting off of Earth alive.
I will go, Brandon. I will go.
Oh, good, Silent.
Brandon, I want to bring
Live
something
up
up
your name,
real
to your
quick.
name then. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just want to bring something up real quick. I got to jump off here. But something I wanted to bring up for a while, you kind of stopped that whole flat Earth solo thing on Wednesday, so I haven't had the chance to jump in. And I know someone's going to just bust in here and start busting my balls as soon as I start bringing it up. But you started to bring it up not that long ago, and it got deflected as usual about the whole J-Tricks, or I believe that's the term, J-Tricks. Am I right on that?
Oh, are you talking about the psychological operation stuff?
Yeah, and the operatives that go into obviously certain discussions, and they'll distract, deceive, the whatever the 5 or 7 Ds is.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to bring up the fact that I've been watching your show since it started, and I've been sort of seeing how this has been playing out. And I see that they're literally exhausting you. And I've seen it. Like, they're just breaking you down. And I've seen how exhilarated you were at the beginning of starting, when you took over the show, to what it is now. And I think they detect that, and that's why they just come in here, just non-stop, busting balls,
Evidence.
wearing you out, that one day you'll just give up the show. And I think that's why Nutsack came in here and was offering you money for the show.
Interesting.
If you kind of get what I'm trying to lay out.
No, I do, and we've talked about that before. That's very interesting. This has come
Yes,
up a
people
couple
come in
times.
and present evidence.
Yeah, so I do feel the same way a little bit. Like, they are sent in here to waste our time, to do the 5Ds, like you said. But also, if you'll remember last week, I was talking about these little psychological gambits that they play with the different characters, the different globers, kind of sending me nasty messages or tailoring these kind of oddly framed messages that seem like they're targeted to fuck with me psychologically. And I think other people in this community have this too. I don't think this is special to me, but Yeah, no, I think you're right. That it does get tiring.
I'm done with these motherfuckers. I'm done.
No, and I think it's because of the nature of your show alone, of how you just keep it open, they sort of taste the blood. And that's why I think they hit you on all fronts. You know, I think they can see that you're getting worn out. I mean, I see it. I'm not, I'm not in your mind. It's just what I've been able to detect over time. I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but it just seems like that's what's been happening is you've gotten kind of worn out operating the show that you have, and they taste the blood, and that's why they're just kind of like vampires, just encompassing.
Well,
That's
I'll tell you
why.
this right here.
Oh.
Let me just respond to that. There are time periods that I go through personally where I'm highly energized and love doing the show, and there's other periods where I go through where um, it's not that I don't like doing the show, it's that I don't have as much fun as I normally do doing the show. I'm tired. I do feel beat down sometimes, not often, but as time goes on, their tactics are less and less, and at this point, I couldn't give a shit less what they say. I personally just need to be careful not to burn myself out. That's what I
Well,
think.
that's why I would say, Brandon, that's why it's important to have like I understand it's not good to be on a bubble, so but it's important to have your own like what like you were doing one day, like for an hour or two, only flat earthers, and to have a nice and relaxed conversation among us, and not have the rumpus come in and just take over and get everybody on the edge and yelling and so I mean it's all about balancing I think the what the people is doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I get why you kind of backed off of it too, because I did see that certain days, you'd open it up and then there wouldn't be really anyone there to start a conversation. But I think a lot of people have been feeling sort of the same. It's like just
I
kind
was
of
here.
attacked on all fronts.
I was here at the beginning of every show to talk.
No, I hear you.
No, I think what
Jeremy's
he's
the
saying,
shit.
this is why I kind of backed off doing the Flat Earth Wednesday thing, is because, like you said, I would open the show.
They were all
It didn't seem like
butthurt.
people were energized to have a conversation. Like I keep hearing, it'd be great if we had this conversation without the distraction of these people. But I know in my head that people, whether they know it or not, whether it's conscious or not, feed off that energy that some of these, we'll just call them trolls, or they're not all trolls, but bring to
Or
the table this
goblins.
adversary. They thrive off the adversary. There's some people that thrive off the adversary. There's some people that can sit and have a conversation, and it was just turning into kind of dead air. I felt like no one was really that interested or in having these conversations. That's how I got to feel. It sounds like it might be important to people, and we can start doing it again. But I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on that.
What I see here is that sometimes they think that they're righteous. They have righteous indignation, so they want to attack you for flat Earth, right? And if you're just talking about flat Earth without them, they kind of will come back even hotter. So it's almost, instead of just like, here's an hour for globalists just to listen and kind of restrain themselves and try to understand something, they even took that as some sort of microaggression against their personal freedom.
Hello, Crit. I think for every
That was very well said, Crit, because I agree with you 100% on that point.
Yeah, but for every
They
minute
hated
that I'm
being
in here-
excluded. They hated being excluded for an hour even.
Just 1 hour a week was too much for them to handle. They need to be part of they need to stand up and scream with their hair on fire. Like, pay attention to me.
Chris, it's like, do you think they're gonna allow like this lady she joined to try to have questions? And do you see Brenda and NASA Shield? They jump right away, right? They cannot have us explaining to somebody new like where the problem with their model is. and that's why they have to interrupt. They have to do all this shit. When I would say when we got people new, I mean it's your show, but I don't think it should be allowed for these people to disrupt and the show and just kill the vibe of explaining to somebody new what's going on.
Well, I muted
but I
those
think
two.
for-
I agree with you. I muted Brenda and paid NASA show after the first time they interjected.
Thank you.
I don't think you guys noticed though. For every 100 minutes that I'm in here listening, I maybe speak one. Right, so I don't think you give enough credit to the fact that I've listened to hours of you guys going back and forth without saying a word.
Then how do you calibrate your water level, my speed?
No, I mean, okay, I don't take you to task very often. I know we had probably about 8 months ago we had a little falling out, but I think we've fixed it since then. I've had pleasant conversation with you multiple times. The shoe fits is what I'm trying to say here. Obviously, there's some globalists who aren't a problem, and they're here. They're here in good faith, but there's a lot that are here in bad faith. It's all.
What do you mean by globalist? You mean just regular globehead?
No.
He probably meant anti-flat earthers. That's what these people are.
Flat earth deniers. Okay.
Flat earth deniers. Yeah, there you go.
Well, Brandon, if you want my 2 penneth, I would just make it for people with the same minds. I go to bike clubs, and we don't have anybody in our bike clubs that are anti-bikers.
That's a good point. No, but you don't want to. Well,
you got
hold on, but a
like-minded
bike club,
people, open thinkers that are, putting things to right, if you like.
Yeah, no.
Why would you
but a
have
bike club
somebody need to disrupt that?
A bike club is not about ideas, so
we have to have people that are
area. We're trying to express ideas.
Yeah, we have to have people here to challenge our ideas. If we just sat around as flat earthers and talked in here, we wouldn't have anybody to check our bullshit. I feel like we still need people to check our bullshit.
We can do that ourselves. Sure.
No, because I'm gonna tell you, I have learned a lot. I have learned a lot about their model, and when they explain to I understand their model. It makes even less sense, right?
Wouldn't just the standard of objectivity and logic be something to check the bull crap? Like, wouldn't just having that standard to begin with, like things that you can verify yourself credibly and repeatably, well, those are the things that we accept, and the other things we don't. Like, that seems like having that standard would automatically weed out the bull crap.
Yeah, but why would we exclude somebody from taking part in that kind of challenging dialogue? I'm struggling for the right word to call.
Oh, I'm not
talking about.
I wouldn't say
just
this
because
right
they
off
don't
the
come
bat.
down on our side of the fence.
No,
you
should
Brandon,
leave
what's
that.
challenge
Only if they
having the
display.
same conversation with the same Globers for 2 years? Now, I understand new people, right? That's where the challenge comes in. Where it feels good and you're getting somewhere, the conversation. But if you're having the same conversation with Rumpus that I've already had, and it's about GPS and everything else, and we keep having the same freaking ones, there's no challenge to that. There's no point in it.
Only if they're
hold on. Let me say why there's a point. Hold on.
Or whatever, maybe.
I'll say why there's a point, right? This is a show on YouTube, and new people can watch it every day. So yeah, it's okay to repeat some conversations, and so that new people listen to the arguments, right? Because usually people look for the most recent. People look for the most recent videos on a channel. They don't go like months and months before,
Well, also saying to kick them out because they disagree. I was just if they refuse to have a logical conversation, then what are you even doing? They're there to waste your time.
Well,
here, that's all they're here for.
People being allowed to
maybe not
come fight, like fight nights. No offense, Brandon, but who's getting anything that's a new person productive out of that conversation? They're not.
Well, let me answer you. If you're interested, you can, because when it gets
they churn the same shit
because when
time and time
plenty
and
of time
time
for all of
again,
us to talk.
and you cannot change their minds, and you never will change their minds. They're paid to spew this crap.
Paid? Who's paid?
They
How
are
many-
paid shills.
How many times when they get angry or they are not thinking when they get angry they start saying stupid stuff, right? They contradict themselves. So sometimes that's why it's good to get them on the edge. So and they start saying stuff that it doesn't make any sense.
Now, they say stupid stuff all the time.
I agree.
But all right, I'll just tell you, I agree with a lot of what you guys are saying, and that's another reason why I started moderating more of the fight night recently, is because it was just too freaking insane, and I've tried to tighten up the moderation a little bit so that it's
Yeah, fight
one
night does
person
need a little
talking,
bit of
we're not
moderation.
talking over each other, and you know, I'm
Sorry,
trying to
Brandon.
mute disruptive people more without there's a fine line to walk, and maybe there isn't a fine line to walk. Maybe I just fucking go all out and, you know, be a little dictator, I guess, you know, be really brutal with it, but I want to keep it as open as possible to have a constructive, challenging conversation about ideas where we can disagree with each other, we can passionately argue with each other, but that it's still productive.
There's nothing wrong with being a dictator, Brandon. If it's gonna bring peace and calm to the place. So.
Well, there's also a difference. I know what you mean by that. The idea of being overly like controlling or like dictator style. However, there's also a difference between that and like curating content. You know, like anyone is free to curate the content they wish to curate. And that if that means not allowing certain people to be on the show or something like that, I think that, you know, you're well within your right to curate the type of content. Just like at an art gallery, you know, the owner of the gallery might have specific artists, you know, paintings on their wall rather than just, you know, anyone's artwork, you know. So you know, you can curate it the way that you want for the audience.
Yeah, that's fair.
I wanted to respond to Jedi's wife's point earlier. Like, why do we keep talking about these things? These are really big freaking subjects. Like GPS, it's not just the one and done. Like, this is the final thing. These are really big subjects that, like, it's worth talking about at length, because I don't know anybody, even electrical engineers or geospace engineers, who know everything about it.
Yeah, that's a good point, RC, because I still don't understand how, I still haven't seen a succinct explanation or presentation on how a time dilation fits into the GPS. I've heard it explained, but I still haven't seen any evidence. So yeah, there's still stuff to talk about there.
That's a real good point, Brandon, right? Like, we could sit and talk about, like, here's how time dilation it's used in calculations. I could pull up like G1000 manuals and like show you how they work. I can show you the mechanism that's used inside of it in the code. Like, there's a lot to talk about with these things.
Yeah, exactly.
Brandon, as a newcomer here, why don't you define what your show is to me? Because it's just called Brandon's Show, but like on other shows, I know what the
Think about this, man. Think about
this.
You got to have time dilation, man, because the whatever satellites they say are moving with the same direction that the Earth is moving, you've got to have an adjustment. You've got to have shit like that. When they say that time's dilating, when they're doing their measurement, and when they say that the cesium atoms are decaying at different rates, because the cesium atom going a certain direction is supposedly going further. Okay, so it's got to be it's got to be aging differently, because it's traveling a different distance, because the Earth is moving. It all boils back down to the fact that the assumption that the Earth is moving in a certain direction has to be accounted for. It's the devil's in the detail, man. They're slippery, very, very slippery slope, man, when you look into that shit.
Yeah, if you notice, Brian, usually all these things that they made up is to fix the problems or holes that their model has, right? They gotta come up with this kind of things, because then it wouldn't make sense. That's why sometimes I say it doesn't make any sense to try to poke holes or find holes on their model, because they've been doing it for so long, and they've been polishing all the mistakes, errors. They come up with anything, and of course they're not gonna tell you, well, it's time dilation without having an equation, explanation, and everything that is gonna fit what they're saying.
Right. And one more thing, like the Michelson-Morley, it boils down to this. I asked him, okay, so let's get a big ass interferometer, 200 yards long or however long they Michelson-Morley did. And what do we, I'd ask this question. What do we expect if the Earth is stationary? Well, what they got is what we expect. And their conclusion comes to this. It says, but since we know the Earth is moving 30 kilometers or 30 miles a second around the sun, since we know that it's moving, then they rule out the ether. That's all based on an assumption. So that means we could never get a stationary Earth because we did the experiment and showed no zero to any
movement,
diffraction, or what do you call it? With the light
precession.
Yeah, not precession, but yeah, the interference basically. They've got little to none. But since they know the Earth is moving, then so they do all their calculations based on the fact that the Earth is moving in that direction. So then that's where they Lorentz come up with the transforms and all this stuff, man. But Michelson went to the ground.
Just to close out the other subject, because we've kind of moved on. I do appreciate the feedback.
Yeah,
that was a good conversation you brought up, Kiefer. So I appreciate that. Give me some food for thought, and I'll
yeah, I mean, actually, I think Eric F. Bear had, I think he had asked you, like, because I think he said he was new. So, like, what is your kind of vision for the show? Or, like, I think he was asking you that.
Yeah, I responded to him in chat, but I'll kind of just say it.
Can I just address something real quick, Brandon? I just want to let you know I try to show up here every day just for the conversation. I like to be a part of it.
Oh, I definitely appreciate that you guys show up. We have a great turnout for the show, a great group of people, and you guys surprise me with the stuff you guys come up with, and all the time. Yeah, it's all good. I appreciate you guys. But
well, on
show,
that, yeah, go ahead.
What the show is intended to be is a passionate discussion about the shape of the Earth. Obviously, it's coming from a flat earther's point of view for the most part, since it's a flat earther that hosts the show. But it's intended to be an open dialogue, kind of a, bringing our ideas to the table. And the idea hasn't really changed that much since Randy's original idea of having a round table where everybody's welcome to come and discuss their ideas, and there's passionate debate about the shape of the Earth. Present information, present data. Anybody's welcome to come and give a presentation on the show. And
my quick idea would be this, man. It'd be this, man. There's new shit that's coming out, with electromagnetism being incorporated in. They're getting new information. The old model is falling apart. So we're looking forward. Maybe we don't have everything correct. I mean, it could be some 4-dimensional shit that we don't even know about. I like to say it when I'm talking honestly. I say we don't know what it really is. If you want just a model that works, sure, go with the globe model. It's got some bullshit explanations in my opinion, but if you just want the math and the model that works, it was probably the only way they could do it at the time. But with this new information coming out and these new, I don't know, man. In my opinion, they'll never know exactly what is going on. And I think we've offered up enough evidence to show that their model has not been proven experimentally. Not 100%. It's not proven, man. There's a couple fatal flaws, man. The selenium eclipse being one of them, man.
Can I just point out, we've just had a lovely conversation for 10 or 15 minutes without any of the cunts being in here.
One thing I wanted to respond also to what you had said, Brandon. Having a completely open panel,
I love Brian.
It is awesome when anyone can be able to come in. I guess, like, in my point of view, what I would say, like, let's say on the globe side, just to put it this way, like, there's maybe a difference in my mind between someone who's productive on the globe side and somebody who's more not productive or like anti-productive. So like if we're here having to have a conversation, like RC Micey just said, like, oh, there's interesting things about GPS. He was willing to have a conversation about it, you know, dig into it and possibly even, you know, have a good conversation. Whereas there's other people that are here just to like shit on the party. You know, they just want to tell you you're wrong nonstop. Call insults. We all know who those people are. Yeah. So it's like
Payne is one of those. He doesn't bring anything, absolutely anything to the table. Like if you ask him to explain anything, his answer is, "What? I'm not here to teach you. What? You don't know anything." That's their answers. I don't know why he even joins. It makes no sense to me.
Because to me, it doesn't really matter what your cosmology is from my point of view in terms of this discussion. You could think the Earth is a globe, concave, anything in the world, flat. As long as you can be able to, you know, have a good discussion, I'm interested to hear everyone's viewpoints. But when there's people that come in and just try to shoot everybody else down, all they do is insult, all they do is poison the well, no matter what their perspective is on it, I feel like that's not a positive, productive energy.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, that's the thing. If I come with a new idea, or let's say you come with a new idea, and I'm fixed on what it's supposed to be, like whatever you say, I'm just gonna say no. You're wrong. You don't understand how it works, and this is how it works, right? Not even try to critical think what you're saying. Not even like gather the information, process it, critical thinking. What is wrong? If it makes sense, if it doesn't make sense. No, none of this. They don't do any of this stuff. They come here with a Google rhetoric, and they start, you know, they repeat it over and over.
Yeah. They can't even question it, mate. They have got to stick to their ludicrous fucking ball because that's what they're paid to do.
Well, I just
You
wonder
can show them
sometimes,
as
like
many
that guy.
proofs. You can show them as many proofs as you want. It doesn't matter. They just brush them aside. It's complete waste of time talking to them, I feel now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I know there's some people who feel like that it's a complete waste of time. Like Bob and Jaron and those guys have taken the view that no ballers are worth even talking to. But what I see them doing is, in my mind, kind of drifting away from reality in a couple areas, in my opinion.
You know, Brandon, and that's what I like this show, because I think you are right now the only show that is open, that is in the middle. Because if you go to Nathan, no Glover goes there anymore, right? And like the Globebusters, they don't allow Glovers to argue with them at all. They have like their own little group going on or whatever.
Yeah, but we should have a Nathan Oakley for every Bob the Science guy they have, right? So not out there.
I agree with that. Yeah.
But they serve a good purpose, man. And what pissed me off when you show some of these people information, and they don't even consider it. Like with the Himawari, they still bring up the Himawari when I'm showing them. I got a video on it. Paul on the Plane did extensive research and pulled out this information showing that it's an overlay information from different satellites overlaid on the blue marble, and they still say that they get a picture every 10 minutes. It's deception. That's deception, man.
That's the thing, right? Those videos are really detailed. Like, he goes step by step showing you where the deception is.
Hey, let me read these super chats, guys, and we'll get back to the conversation. I didn't mean to take so long. But it was a worthy conversation. James Richard, $5, claiming the videos of Earth spinning ball, is real, is no different than me claiming Area 51 is the Hollywood set for space. Both stories. Yeah, I suppose so. Thanks, James. Second best, Bob. Take my money for the entertainment you've given me tonight, but the Earth isn't flat. Yeah, we're all entitled to our opinion, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Bob. 10 pounds there. I appreciate that. Dan Morris, $9.99. I agree. These trolls agents are trying to wear you down. Here's some love and inspiration to say we appreciate you, more flat earthers only time. Thank you, Brandon. Love your show. Thanks, Dan. I appreciate that. Appreciate the $9.99 US. And I'll bring back flat earther only time. I want to see if I can get people to put some topics together ahead of time. I don't always have time, but I'm sure I can scrounge some stuff up and see if somebody else is willing to do that as well. So thanks, Dan. Thanks, guys.
Framework of Marvel 2.0. You know, that's not to say that the data, you know, that they were mapping on top of it was fake, but yeah, that's the kind of work and evidence and proof and that it's that we're looking for. And yeah, maybe not that many people gave it credit or anything, but yeah, I agree with Brian. That was pretty good, and not that many people that I know of looked at it and gave him credit for his research and what he showed. So.
Well, is that Carlos
without that,
sounding
Carlos,
like
without
he's
that,
on
the
the
debate's
on the
over,
right side?
If they got all these real-time pictures in space, the debate's over, man. So that's the first thing most of us look into. So that should be the first thing that they look into. I applaud you for looking into it, seeing the evidence on their website. You know, that's like I say, the devil's in the detail. It's on their website, and they showed the projections for the weather simulations up to the year 2100. And they match, you know, they match. So how do they know exactly what the clouds are going to look like on the dark side of the earth? So for a kicker, they show what the weather looks like on the dark side of the earth. So if it's a picture, how the hell does it know what the clouds look like on the dark side of the earth? Can it see through dark?
Because they're using
some shit like that.
Yeah, they're using infrared, Brian. That's what it is. So, like I said, that you know, you really have to look a lot deeper, and the problem is that this is being lost in the details. Because some people claim that those are actual photographs, but in reality, some of these satellites are doing is gathering different spectrums of light and data, and they're just being mapped over an existing, you know, picture. Like I say, Marvel 2.0.
He covered the SOHO. He covered Epic, which is Discovery. He covered Himawari. I tried to sum it up as good as I could in a video I just put out on Flat Earth Test. I'll post it in general, but this is a whole lot of videos consolidated, the vital information on all these different satellites. It's not just Himawari, but I'll post it in general for anybody who's interested.
Who did this research? I missed it. Who put together the longer form research that you're talking about, Brian?
Paul on the Plane.
Oh yeah, okay. I didn't know he did anything other than Himawari.
Faking Space. It's called the playlist is called Faking Space. It's Paul on the Plane, or his backup channel, Paul on the Plane FE. And this playlist is called Faking Space, and he's got 4 seasons of it. And he painstakingly goes through all of their information and all of their, you know, claims and everything that's on their website. It's all NOAA. It's all linked. They're all linked together, and it's a composite of different satellites, different radars, and all kinds of shit overlaid on the blue marble. They don't even deny it. But
I just posted the link just real quick. I just posted the link to that series.
And like I said, it's all being lost in the details because people will claim like these are actual images, but when we say images, we're thinking, you know, RGB, just the regular visible spectrum that we use for regular photographs. But in reality, they're doing other photographs, and then they're overlaying it over an existing polished image of the Earth. And yeah, that I can agree with. Yeah,
for any new ears out there, this guy Carlos talking is not a flat earther.
He's not a flat earther.
He's a fair globe earther, but you know, he will at least be fair about where the key points and arguments are. And so anybody listening, this is not a flat earther just talking shit. This is a globe earther who's being fair, and I like it that he's fair, whether he believes in the globe or not. He at least understands our arguments and talks to us with respect. Doesn't say, you know, we don't understand.
Well, do you guys know Iro Landucci?
Stand-up guy, Carlos.
Yeah. Do you guys know Iro Landucci? He did one for the GPS. Yeah. He walked step by step with the GPS thing, right? He shows you the pages, who's doing who's doing what on each part of the GPS and all that stuff, right? I mean, you see that, and it makes sense.
Well, I've seen it, and it wasn't quite as thorough as good as you're making it out to be. But now, do you happen to have a link to that? Because I would like to go over it again. It's been a while. Because they really kind of don't go too deep. They just kind of say this could be done with this could be done with that, but there's no proof and showing and you know, illustrating with any evidence, that those things are what they are.
Well, he goes to the pages, to the web page, right? He goes to the web page, and he reads what the web page, the official web page, is saying. So I don't know what more evidence you want from that kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay.
It's coming from their own
Like I said, you have to have a little more concrete evidence other than I'm reading something and perhaps misinterpreting or it's been a while since I've seen the video, but yeah, you need a little more than that, because I've heard Eru and Mr. Bob Nadell and saying that this can be done and do this different methods, and just talk about the methods, but they don't go into detail and in depth and say, here how I can prove you this is the method they're using.
Well, look, man, if we're gonna go by GPS, man, they show about how it's a pear shape, how the southern hemisphere is bigger around than the northern hemisphere.
We're not talking about that,
though. That's a clue, man. That's a clue. Like,
do you understand? Do you understand that anything can be concrete evidence? It just depends on the interpretation of each person.
Well, if that's the case, then
to me, man, that's a clue. Why would they say the southern hemisphere is bigger, where it's shaped like a pear, and then on top of that, they say that the equator has a 20-mile bulge? Okay, because when we're trying to converge all these different maps and make a world map, then they're going to have to be you're going to have to be sloping downward. I mean, you're going to have to be coming down from the equator to the southern hemisphere. It's going to have to get bigger. Okay, spreading out. So you've got to add elevation to the equator if you're going to start spreading out. I mean, if you're going to start converging in the southern hemisphere, you've got to have an excuse. So here's two of them. It's pear-shaped, and you got a 20-mile elevation, bulge of elevation at the equator. That's the only thing. You'd have to do that if it was a flat plane to make a world map converge properly, or even come close to converging properly.
Anyway, Brandon, you don't think that I'm one of those paid people that get paid to come over here and raise Cain, do you?
No. I don't know who they are.
I just want to make sure.
No, but I don't think that.
Well, I just, I hear that all the time, and it makes you think, like, really? I mean, I don't know. I just wondering if you thought that I was.
Of them are paid, man. They're useful idiots, man. The ones who come just to bring chaos. They're useful idiots. The ones who are paid are the ones with channels.
Right.
The ones with channels get paid with super chats. You can see like the steady stream of some of the names that are on different. I mean, I watch all the global content, man. Just about.
Brian, but the same could be said about the flat earthers. They're doing it.
Not really. Not really. There's no. Come on, Carlos. You know there's no money for the flat earthers, bro. Come on. The other day, listen. Nah, man. The other day I went to. I mean, they're their own group, bro. They're like in a little bubble. But the other day I went to YouTube, right, and I typed flat earth debate. I passed like 2 or 3 pages, and not one like real flat earther was on those pages.
There's nothing to be gained by flat Earth, man. It's an awakening, and like I said, to me, my personal awakening is that they don't know exactly what it is, man. I stand firm to that, man. It seems to me to be a flat plane, but there's some explanations that I can't myself personally come up with. But to me, it's something beyond what we understand yet, man. And if you just want a simple understanding of the world, then go globe. If you want to be awake, it opens you up to a lot of other deceptions. It just makes everything obvious, in my opinion. And when you have eyes to see, man, it really opens up everything, man, to what you can see. We can sniff out deception a lot easier.
I'm just waiting for Brian to finish. Okay, you've been in this conversation for a really long time. Have you been moved a little bit, at least, or nothing? Is there anything that you question from your model that you believe?
Well, I wouldn't say question. Yeah, I question some of the as far as Big Bang and the origins of creation, and some of these theoretical stuff. I'm like, not very useful.
Yeah, things
but
like
that,
when they say that they know what happened 1 million of something the second before the Big Bang or after or some shit like that.
well,
Right.
they're extrapolating from what they know, but that's kind of a like doing some wild guesses, educated wild guesses is what I call them. But yeah, so when it comes to that, I don't really care for it
Yeah,
that
they'll
much.
never know what stars are, man. They'll never know
Well, I don't.
exactly what stars are. Now, listen, one more thing, y'all, and I'll quit hogging. But I can appreciate the Blue Horizons and the other one. They just went up because, man, that if it is real, okay, I got no reason to doubt that they ain't going up that high. That shows, plus the Soundly rockets going up 72 miles. That shows, what they're actually capable of. So. So we know that they're capable of going up, 50, 60, 70 miles. Beyond that, I don't trust what I get from NASA. I don't fully trust them, but you could look at it from a standpoint where you could see our actual limitations. But there's no reason for me to not think there's got to be containment up there. One, I showed containment in a video. It's real easy to do. Anybody can do it. It's just a temperature gradient. There's no vacuum up there. It's gas law. It's a temperature gradient. There's no damn vacuum entropy. There's no change in energy. It's just a change in entropy. And I think that's been proven in the lab. They weaseled their way around that argument, in my opinion. There's got to be containment, or the gas would fill the available space. Their version of gravity would not stop it, man. Understand the gradient. It's temperature-based. It's gas law.
Okay.
But not about the curve
It's like
or
the
any.
helium
Oh,
balloon,
sorry,
man.
Brandon.
It's like the
Go
balloon
ahead.
in liquid nitrogen. Look, it goes flat. The air, where'd the air go, right? The air just kind of shriveled up, but it's still there. It just shriveled up, man. It's not, the balloon ain't creating a vacuum in there. It's just shriveled up air because it's so damn cold. As soon as you warm it back up, it expands. So there's still air up there. It's just shriveled up to shit, man. But it's so cold, there's nothing expanding into it. It's nature's gradient until the whatever container it is up there. To me, there's got to be some sort of.
Brandon, do you think that?
I don't know. I'm getting in la la land kind of man when I start guessing what.
Brandon, do you think perhaps a change on format would help the while we're running into on your show?
I've thought about changing the format, but I don't know what I would change it to. Then I thought, well, maybe we had a smaller panel, but then I'd have to pick and choose people to put on the smaller panel. I don't really want to do that. But what did you have in mind?
Well, I've seen other channels. What I would do is have a set time where two people can engage, and then open it up for everybody else to comment. And that kind of, I don't know, that kind of gives you a spread out, you have 15, 30 minutes of two people, and everybody can sit back and listen. And then once that's open, everybody can have their questions and comments, and then everybody else can engage. Open to everybody else.
Yeah, but we did that with me and Master Khalif, man. It was kind of boring, man. I like his type. Maybe you should try, Brandon. Maybe try like 2-on-2, or even 3-on-2, 3-on-3, or 2-on-2. I mean, that was all good,
Brian,
1-on-1, but it just seemed kind of boring. I don't know.
Are you still talking about the debate? What is this 2-on-2, 3-on-3?
The 1-on-1 that Brandon did with me and Khalif, me and Master K, or whatever the hell his name is, about the ISS and shit. It just seemed like it'd have been better if I had like one other person or maybe two other people. Maybe he could control it. I don't know. I'd like the show for what it is, man. But I'm always up for new ideas too. Expanding. But I'm good with whatever he does. To be honest.
I think I just need to trim out some of the more disruptive elements that impact the show in a negative way.
So don't let Brian Leakey in then.
Brian Leakey's number one on the list. He's right up there.
Carlos, do you believe that when you see the stars, you're looking into the past?
Anything you see is in the past, technically speaking. But if you mean by the fact that light takes a long time to travel and what you're seeing happen in the past, yeah, technically that's true with everything. I mean, if you agree that that light has a speed, and if you agree that radar works the way it works, then yeah, that would be the case.
Carlos,
Yeah, but
That's
do
an
we
interesting
agree it has
question.
a
That's an
speed
interesting
limit?
question.
The
I mean,
question is, do we
one
agree
of
it
the
has a
first
speed
sentence
limit?
that you said,
Hold on,
Carlos.
Brian.
Brian,
Don't
your
you
mic
listen?
is real low as well.
Yeah.
I know you have
Carlos,
your
repeat
Yeah.
that statement again.
Question was, do you believe that when you see the stars, you're seeing into the past? I say, well, if we all agree that light, has a speed, and it's not an
Right
immediate.
there.
No, a speed limit, bro. A speed limit. That's the question. Is there a
Even
speed
a
limit
speed.
to light?
Not even a speed. How did you measure the speed, the one-way speed of light? Has anyone ever measured the one-way speed of light?
Well,
I'm gonna answer it for you. I'm gonna answer it for you, and I'm gonna tell you no, it has not been done. Unless
Okay.
you can find where it has been done.
So what does that? So since it hasn't been done, does that mean that light makes it to your eyes immediately?
When you turn any
I
light,
would say
that's
it
what
is,
happens,
light
isn't it?
is instance.
When
Look,
when you turn
let me
any
ask you
light
this.
or whatever, it's instant.
No, it's not. All right, so
Yeah, to me it's more. To me, it's more
No,
of an.
Carlos,
it's an
you
induction.
believe that it's not instant.
guys, let me
You
let me
haven't
answer this.
measured the speed.
We listen, guys. We have tested.
I'm listening.
We have tested that the speed of light in different mediums, water and air and other things. Right now, so we know, we have an estimate of how long light takes to travel depending on certain mediums. So
Can you bring that up somewhere for us, please?
Okay, let me just tell you this. Look up a rangefinder. Rangefinder. How do you think that works?
A radar?
No, a rangefinder. You know the
I will look into that, Carlos, because you don't want to look into the speed of light. I will look into a rangefinder, though.
Yeah, like the contractors had the little bulge rangefinders that use infrared light to measure the distance from one wall to another one. How do you think they do that? How do you think they calculate that? It's calculated by the known speed of the infrared light takes to go from one point to another one.
No, not the known. The pre-programmed speed. You can do it with any speed, right? You can program that speed to be 1 second per, like 1 inch per let's say per hour, and you shoot that thing, and it's gonna make the calculation. It all depends on how you program the gun.
Right. Yeah. So
Right.
you program it by having a database. You measure how long it takes to travel 1 inch, 1 foot, a meter.
Yeah. Hold on, Carlos. Listen,
and then you
Carlos.
can mathematically estimate. What?
Carlos, but at this point, I already shown that it's all depend on what the person is gonna program that thing, how it's gonna measure. He's not saying that the light is a certain speed.
We're dealing with light traveling in air. Like, I mean, what are you going? Where are you going with this? The question is, do you believe that when you're looking at the stars, you're seeing into the past? And the answer is, if we know that light takes time to travel from one point A to point B, then yes, that would be the case.
But we don't know that.
Yes, we do, moron.
Well, we don't. Hold on, Carlos.
What do you think? How do you
You're
think?
doing well until you started
wait. Carlos, don't. Hold on.
Moron. Let's just have a conversation.
Yeah, we know. Hold on. We know that's Carlos. That's one part of. Yeah, we see that kind of behavior on light. Okay. That doesn't mean that every light behaves like that, right?
Oh, okay. Okay. If you want to take it that way, yeah, I guess if that's a special kind of light, then yeah, we don't know then.
There you go.
All right. Excellent.
There you go.
So the light from the stars is special. It's not, it's not anywhere.
Well, you don't know. Neither do I.
All right, cool.
Who?
You can believe your priest, though,
Sorry,
right, Arlo?
sorry for calling you moron, by the way. But
Está bien, güey. No hay pedo. No hay pedo. It's all right.
Even if you are seeing light from an earlier time, let's say you are seeing into the past, what does that prove? Let's say
nothing, absolutely nothing. That's a good question, Brandon, because that was what I was asked. And then, do you believe that you're seeing into the past? I'm like, well, everything that you're seeing is the past because the light takes a time to go from point A to point B.
But once that light reaches, let's say, your eye, it's not really seeing into the past, right? Because like the instant the light accesses your eye, that's in this moment. Even if the light was emitted from somewhere else, sort of like if you're hanging around a bonfire and you're feeling the heat, the heat is real. That's in the moment you're feeling that heat. Now that's true. The heat might have traveled from the fire, 5 or 6 feet to your body. That doesn't mean the heat's coming from the past. The heat you're feeling is in the present.
Well, it's like
correct.
When someone shoots a
gun.
It's
just like with sound. Guys, just like with sound. When you see a firework miles away.
Well,
you see
here we go with the sound.
Well, hold on. No, it is. Is it not like sound? I don't know that because that's what I'm thinking.
Exactly, just like sound.
So if you have a gun and you shoot it, the bullet's going to get there before the sound, even though they both came from the same place. So you are hearing something that happened previously when you hear the gunshot, right?
Hang on, Brandon.
Yeah, Brandon. Then if you agree that if you agree that light is like sound, then yes, I agree with that.
But I don't know what light is. I'm not saying I do, but I'm just saying that it travels from one place to another. I agree that it travels.
That's a good analogy to the principle. Yeah.
Yeah, but the sound. Here's the problem with the sound analogy is that the sound doesn't exist on both places at the same time, right?
No,
when it goes away for one person, it goes away, and the other person is listening to that sound. The first person is not listening to that sound anymore. When we're talking about light, both persons are looking at the light at the same time.
No, well, that's the debate. That's the debate because in that same example, the person that emits the light is they have it instantly, and then the person a light year away would experience that a year later.
You don't know. Hold on. Let's not talk about light years, right? Because neither you or me knows or can go to those distances and do this test, right? So let's talk about real life.
I'm not trying to prove a light year. I'm just talking about the principle.
No. The principle is bullshit when you talk about light years. Let's talk about distances that we can test in real life, right?
That's on the moon.
If I put a flashlight, hold on. If I point a flashlight 2 miles away from you, the moment if you're able to see that flashlight, of course, the moment I turn that light on, you're gonna see it.
No, wrong.
There's mathematically a delay. I understand what we perceive to be instant, we would describe as instant. I understand that, but if it's all about precision, our senses and our bodies can't sense that precision required to know that there is a delay. That's all there is.
There's no such thing. Oh, hold on. If we go down to, like you guys say, I'm gonna use your own argument. Down to molecules and all this shit, then there's nothing precise in this world. Everything has a margin of error. Well, then there you go. You just disprove yourself.
No.
We can measure.
It's just a margin of error.
We can measure the.
Hold on. That light that the guy is, whatever you guys say that the light takes for the other person to see it, it's just a margin of error that we cannot avoid.
We can measure the speed of light.
Right. Everything has a margin of error, Simon. Everything. That's why science isn't about proving.
There you go.
If there was no margin of error, things would be 100%. There would be.
Then light is not. Then light is not constant though. Bio. Then follow the logic. Then hold on, guys. Then follow the logic.
And then continue.
Bio. Follow the logic. If everything has margin of error, there's no constant light speed.
The margin of error exists within our equipment and our capabilities of measuring. That's where the margin of error exists.
Yeah.
The Maxwell gives a theoretical basis for the speed of light, which is exact. the fact that we still can measure light very, very accurately, and the measurement that we make in real world agrees with the theoretical prediction of the speed of light in Maxwell's equations. So we know the speed of light, we can measure it, and we know it's not instant. And therefore we can know that things in the distance, like the speed of sound analogy, if something we know how far it is away, which we can do by redshift and all sorts of other things, and the brightness of various supernovas, etc. We can determine how far things are away, mostly using redshift, but you can determine what that is. And so we can know these things are in the distance a long way away. And there's no experiment, and this one-way speed of light stuff. Okay, you can't prove that it's that the two-way speed, we measure it with the two-way speed, but so far there's been no experiment to suggest the two-way speed and the one-way speed are any different. There's nothing to indicate that traveling in a particular direction causes light to change speed.
Couldn't you reduce the margin of error by adding, by performing that experiment, but doing two-way, three-way, four-way, and then kind of narrow the effects of the mirrors that you're using?
Yeah, but we know the speed of light incredibly accurately. Why do we need to? I mean, we've already got an incredibly accurate measurement of the speed of light.
Right, but we can always get more accurate. I'm just wondering if we add...
the percentage error is incredibly tiny at the moment.
No, I know. Yeah, it's the same thing with little g. Like we have a very precise measurement, but it can always be pushed further to a more precise measurement. I'm just wondering if that's one way to account for some type of interaction between a mirror and that bounce back to get to a more precise speed one way.
No, the one-way thing is a fundamental problem because the way you measure, you've got to measure it against something to determine how long something takes. I mean, someone was talking about earlier about when you see a light flash in the distance, therefore it's instant. But of course, it's not. You need to know when it was switched on, and then when you see the light, it's not sufficient just to see the light. That's like saying I hear a bang. That's instant. No, you don't know when the bang noise was generated. And the trouble with the two-way business is that, or the measuring one way, is that the measuring equipment we've got all works at the speed of light because it's a fundamental part of the reality.
You can communicate with the person, right?
Of light. You therefore can't measure it one way.
You can you can talk to the other person, Rumpus. Come on, don't play dumb.
What I'm saying, let me be more specific. What I'm saying is I understand that today there's no way to do the one-way speed of light efficiently or accurately. What I'm saying is when you do the two-way, let's say it takes 2 seconds. So it's easy to say that the one-way is 1 second over this distance. Now, if you introduce a third way, and now it's 3.05 seconds, you can kind of say that the bounce back or the interaction with the material is causing more of a delay than the speed is indicating. And that's why I'm saying if you add more directions, you may be able to get more precise and account for that interaction with the object and requiring it to bounce back. I don't know if it's true or not. I'm just...
I don't think that works, unfortunately.
At that point, like you gotta take into account other things. I would say because you're using light, it's hitting the the surroundings, making the air more dense. I mean,
just talking about the principle. I'm not talking about real world application. Let's go do this. Just talking about the principle behind adding directions and if that's a way to get more precise. I'm only
that's a problem with you guys. Like you guys think about just principles without thinking about what in real life happens.
No, you have to start with the principle. You have to start with the principle, and you have to understand the basics of how something works. Then you can start interacting with other things, and you can understand how those things interact. I mean, that's why we have things like the ideal gas law. We don't have perfect systems, but we can calculate perfect systems in order to understand how other things interact and change particular variables.
You can tell if someone's quite bright if they could try and determine a principle from a real-world example, and also they try and determine the real world, what will happen in reality from a principle. Most people who are clever try and reduce things down to principles, and then you can reapply the principles and make predictions. The people who are a bit dim just take, let's say I see a rainbow, that's it, that's a rainbow, or we've got the Coriolis effect, it's just latitude dependent. Just accept that. You won't try and look for any underlying reason for this. Clever people try and find the underlying reasons for things.
I know that was a jab at me, you asshole.
Sorry, Brandon.
But then you end up being a
You're not
narrow-minded,
actually, Franny, you're not
following
stupid. I
just
was a bit mean there.
limited
You're
things.
not stupid, actually.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know.
Rumpus.
Yep.
Then you end up being narrow-minded and limited by your principles that you have like presupposed.
No, you've got to know what to throw out as rubbish. That's the way you find out the truth. There's
How
a lot
would
of
you
rubbish
know?
out there? Because you test
Mhm.
it, you evaluate it, you determine the principles, the theory behind it. You give it lots and lots of criteria, and then when it fails all of those things, you chuck it out.
So what
But
happened,
people-
like with the guy who measured? What was it, Brian? The guy that you say that measure if there was movement of the Earth, and they throw it away because it didn't fit their model.
You're talking about
You're talking to stuff like that. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, but that the Michelson-Morley experiment. Yes, they were. We know that the Earth's moving. We've got about 10 different ways of proving that,
Oh.
many of which you can prove yourself. Very
Why
easily.
even do that test then?
Well, we have. Well, hold on.
No.
There are about
I'm
10
saying
there are about 3 or
Rumpus.
4 tests you can personally do to establish that the Earth is moving. And then Michelson-Morley, because they knew the Earth was moving, then got this weird result because Maxwell's equation suggested there was an ether. Or the idea of something vibrating, and prior to that, in a medium, if you have something like light propagating, all other waves have to propagate through a medium. So they said, well, this must be this medium thing this light's going through. So we're going to call this luminiferous ether, but we can't detect it, the damn thing. And then Michelson-Morley said, well, okay, as the Earth is traveling 64,000 miles an hour, and through a medium you would expect to see a change. They couldn't find it. They said, oh, flipping heck, but we can't find this ether thing. But because they knew the Earth was moving, they were expecting. Well, they caused. I mean, they spent 10. I mean, I think he didn't really accept the lack of an ether for about 20 years or something ridiculous. He was determined there was an ether, and every single time he did an experiment,
He never did. He never did. They twisted his experiment, bro.
It's my understanding with Michelson-Morley is that they found something, but it fell within the margin of error.
Exactly. It was so small.
It resided within the equipment's margin of error.
No.
Exactly.
If you use your logic bio, it wasn't a margin of error. It just didn't fit your model that you had in your mind.
I know.
Look, hold on, Silent. If I use a ruler that's only got a margin of error, say 1 millimeter, and then I get a result of that's less than 1 millimeter, you say, well, that's irrelevant because my ruler wasn't accurate enough.
Exactly. That's essentially what was going on, in which the Michelson-Morley was performed with better equipment, reducing the margin of error, and then that result that they had actually reduced as well. So it seems there's a correlation. There's a correlation between there's a correlation between the results that they're getting and their margin of error. And every time the margin of error is reduced, that result that they're getting also reduces. So it's logical to say that is part of the error rather than part of a reading.
Correct, because there's got to be an error always. It'll never be on the zero.
If the Earth was motionless, what results would you expect then? I would expect there to be no interference, which is exactly what we got. But y'all couldn't
know
accept
the Earth's
that because
moving.
You knew the Earth was moving. So
But
then
we
you
know
say,
the
well, we
Earth's
know the Earth's
moving.
moving, so we have to eliminate the freaking medium.
You can do tests yourself, Brian, to establish that the Earth is moving.
So what results would I expect if my hypothesis was that the Earth's not moving? Okay, so this
The Michelson-Morley experiment is not a test of the Earth moving. The Michelson-Morley
before this says Rumpus.
Absolute motion in space, bro. Don't be dishonest. He set out to prove the Earth's absolute motion.
Hold on. The Michelson-Morley experiment was not a test to see if the Earth is moving. They knew it was moving.
Invented the interferometer 10 years before the Michelson-Morley to prove the Earth's absolute motion. He went to his grave, never accepted the results they put on it. Even though they gave him the prize, he just kind of ducked away. And him, like a lot of other people who win prizes and shit, and then try to give other ideas, and they get labeled a crackpot because they start veering away from the story, the paradigm, you know. And it happens a lot, man.
That's what I'm saying.
What you call it with the sun, and he's proven the sun can't be a gas. You know, and he's the guy who invented the freaking MRI that's saving people's lives. That they said couldn't be done.
He may have gone to his grave, but I can't quite remember whether he did accept it in the end. But that's irrelevant. I mean, Einstein was wrong about quantum mechanics. No scientist has the right to determine what isn't accepted because you have these hundreds of thousands of other people or millions of other people doing the tests on these things on the other institutions, and everybody checks everybody else's work, and then through a consensus of saying, well, we've checked this, we've checked that, you then end up with the correct result. And each individual, unfortunately, is not perfect. So Einstein was wrong about some things, and clearly Michelson, whichever one it was, the Morley one was wrong as well.
Let me ask you this question. Would it be fair to say that I'm going to invent this device to try and prove the Earth's absolute motion? And I invent this device, and I say that I'm going to figure out how much we're moving by the interference I get. And then I get no interference, or none within the margin of error.
No, he wasn't trying to do that, Brian. You're misrepresenting him. Brian, he did not invent the Michelson-Morley experiment to detect the motion of the Earth. He knew that the Earth was moving. That was part of the experiment.
Yeah, but what would we expect? No, Rumpus, what would we expect?
I agree with you. I agree with you. You would expect no change effect as a result of it if the Earth was not moving. But we know that the Earth's moving. And you can do tests yourself.
Let me read the definition real quick of what the experiment was intended to do, just so we can level set a little bit. The experiment compared the speed of light in perpendicular directions in an attempt to detect the relative motion of matter through the stationary luminiferous ether. The result was negative in that Michelson and Morley found no significant difference between the speed of light in the direction of movement through the presumed ether and the speed at right angles.
That's right. Correct.
Right. If it were occurring where there's this ether, when you shoot the light in different directions, you would expect an interference. There is none because there is no medium.
Yeah, well,
but that's because you have presupposition of what the light is gonna do, right? You have a presupposition of what the light's gonna do.
It's an accurate prediction. It's an accurate prediction. If this thing exists, we would expect to have particular results. We perform the experiment. We don't get those particular results. Now we form a conclusion.
How do you know
if I thought the Earth was stationary, this is the result I would predict for a stationary Earth as well, is it not?
Listen, it's like if I say what he just said. Hold on, Brian. He just said
if the Earth is moving or not. All of a sudden, y'all want to throw the ether into the test?
That's what the test was.
Post-talk explanation.
That's what the test was, though. It was to detect the ether.
But we could say that if we were on a spinning ball, we would expect to feel the 1,000 mile per hour spin, and we don't. Therefore, no ball. We can do the exact same thing.
Bob, if you understood the maths, and I can go through it with you now if you like, we would not expect to feel the rotation of the Earth. I can show you that we know you would not expect to feel the rotation.
That's not the point at all. What I'm saying is that we just described the idea of an experiment.
You would not be
is absurd.
You guys are talking at the same time. Can't hear you.
Stupid.
Here, then let's do it this way. Then let's ask an honest question. If there was an ether, what kind of experiment would you accept that could detect it, or what prediction could you make if there was an ether?
I don't know. Ask the ether guys. I'm not.
Exactly. So these guys made that prediction.
I'm not saying there is an ether, but your dismissal of it, your explanation of your dismissal is absurd. For the reason that I already gave.
That they're missing in their model, man. Listen, there's a fatality in their model. We have devices such as the Cavendish experiment that is so delicate. I don't care if it's on a pendulum. I don't care what style. It's so hard to get that thing to fucking stop. Most people give up. Now, you can tell me that I don't feel the Earth's motion. You can tell me I don't feel the Earth's motion.
But you wouldn't expect
to. You mean to tell me that the Cavendish experiment would just stop? It's still delicate. It wouldn't
Ron, do you understand?
If you let it sit there long enough, it will stop, bro. And it couldn't. If the Earth is accelerating, it would not be able to stop.
Do you not understand that you would not be expected?
Why did you not want that information?
Please let me make
my point. Rumpus, you had to interrupt me halfway through.
Well, no, you interrupted me. You stopped, and I tried to say, Brian, you would not be expected to feel the motion of the Earth. If you do the maths and the physics, you end up with such small. You end up with such small numbers, like the 0.3% of your body weight at the equator. You would not be expected to feel it. But you can measure it with a
that I barely can't feel it. It's just out of my
Brian, you can measure it. Get a scale. Go to the equator, go to the North Pole, and you can measure it, but it's really small.
Another assumption, another pre-assumption right there.
That, bro. I'm good with your explanation saying that it's just out of my range of being able to feel it. even
Right.
though it's an acceleration. I'm
So
good
why
with
do you
that.
keep on saying
What
you
I'm not
should
good
feel it
with
then?
is that is an instrument like the Cavendish is so touchy. It would pick it
Well,
up,
that's
bro. It
another
would never be
experiment.
able to
Do
stop.
you want to talk about the
It's an
Cavendish, or do you want to
angular.
talk about the rotation of the Earth? Which do you want to
It's
talk
an
about?
angular, dude. I'll tell you this. You
The
set up a
angular's got nothing to
Cavendish,
do with
okay?
Cavendish.
And try and get that
Rotation's
fucker
got
to
nothing to
stop.
do with Cavendish.
It takes 3 days to stop sometimes, Rumpus.
But
It
hold
would
on.
never
Brian,
stop.
Are you?
bro.
Do you want to talk about the
Brian,
Cavendish experiment? Do you want to
Brian,
talk about
I did.
rotation? Because they're two
Biodual.
completely
Accelerating, it would
separate
never
Let me
things.
ask a
still,
question
bro.
related
the
to this
experiment.
subject. Biodual, did you have to calculate? Did you do the calculations for your Cavendish experiment, and did you have to include anything relating to the rotation of the Earth in
No.
your calculations?
No, so I tried to do calculations. I tried to use simulators for the Cavendish before I performed it, just to see what I would expect. But the problem is, every simulator I found and all the math involved and all the interactions was for a horizontal torsion bar. Mine was a vertical one, so I couldn't make any accurate predictions. As far as the rotation of the Earth, no. And I think it could be ignorant of me to say, but because it's a constant rotation, it won't be affecting how it rests. Once it's at rest, there is a zero net force acting upon it at that
Acceleration,
moment.
bro. No matter how small, it's still an acceleration that can be measured. Just because we can't pick it up doesn't mean devices like that should not be able to pick it up. And that device is plenty fatigued. I mean, plenty. You know, it's well within the range of detecting.
No, it isn't. It isn't. So it doesn't detect.
Okay, it isn't. It isn't. What makes you say it isn't? Just because it doesn't agree
Because
with
he
your model?
knows the numbers.
Right. The numbers involved for that force is too small, and then it also doesn't have a motor to keep it in motion to deviate due to the rotation of the Earth. It acts on the resistance around it, whether it be the torque value of the wire that it's hanging off of, the air resistance around it while it's oscillating. All of these things reduce its motion until it comes to rest, and that's it. Once it's at rest, all forces acting upon it have a net zero effect at rest.
What is the
when we talk about
what you're saying is that no, wait. What he's saying now is that the Cavendish I can sense shit way better than the Cavendish can. Just feeling acceleration with my hand or my feet or my vestibular system.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. So
when
I know.
Hold on, I got a
28
question
hours
related to
doing
this
it, but
force.
You're right, Brian. You've never done it, but I have 28 hours of doing it uncut. But yeah, you're right.
What is the hold on? What is the force that moves a pendulum? What is the measurement of that force?
It'll be the deviation. So that's why these Foucault pendulums, the official, professional, and museum ones, they have a motor just to keep it in motion. It doesn't cause a deviation from the motor. It just keeps it in motion.
No, I
and because the
understand
Earth
that,
is
but
rotating, you're going to have that deviation. So within the Cavendish, you don't have a motor to keep it in motion.
I got it, but it moves around, right? It causes the pendulum to process, right? Is that the right word?
Sure, yeah, that's fine.
No.
What is the force of that procession?
Coriolis.
No. I mean,
Well
in
within
newtons.
the limits of feeling
In
the
newtons.
acceleration, Brandon. They're not being honest.
Hold on. In newtons, what is that force?
Well,
Or
right.
either they just don't
The
know.
Coriolis force is the cross product of the velocity
Brian.
with respect to the inertial.
He's not
why are you
asking for a
interrupting? I'm in the middle of an
definition.
answer
Don't
there,
you-
Bob.
Number.
Brian, don't you listen
why
to
did
Brandon?
you
He's
just
asking a
interrupt my
question.
answer to Brandon? Can I just finish?
You're not
There is
answering the right question,
for-
Rumpus.
Oh, Jesus
Well,
Christ.
hold on,
You're
let me-
answering the wrong question.
Brandon just asked a question. I'm answering. He wanted
Yes.
to know what the force was. I'm trying to
The
tell
wrong
him.
question. He doesn't
Right,
want a
no,
definition.
he asked a question, and
He
I'm
wants a
trying
quantity.
to answer him. He asked a question. I'd just like to have 5
All right.
seconds to answer him.
If he doesn't have a
So there's
quantity, let's hear it. Go ahead.
Right,
You're
so the result is dependent on the velocity
not.
of the pendulum, and the latitude.
Okay. So if we're at
So
40,
there's a.
where
I
you
can
at,
show you the. I
Biodual?
can show you the
40?
equation if you like it, but it depends. It'll depend on your. It'll depend on your pendulum.
What is your latitude, Biodual?
Oh, my latitude? I
Yeah.
think it's like 43. I'm not sure. San
So
Antonio.
he's at
Someone
say
can Google
about
it.
40, Rumpus. You think you can calculate it for a pendulum at 40 degrees? What else
Well,
do
you
you
need to know the. Well, you need to know. You asked for the force. I mean, obviously, we can tell you what the precession angle is. That. I mean, is that what you really wanted to know? What the
No, I want to
precession
know
angle?
the force.
Well, okay. Well, that force is dependent on the mass of the pendulum and on the velocity that the of the swing, because the actual Coriolis force is dependent on the velocity with respect to the non-inertial reference frame. So you need to know the mass of the pendulum, you need to know the velocity of the pendulum, because of course it changes when the pendulum comes to its peak and it stops moving, then the Coriolis force is nothing. So the Coriolis force is changing as it changes, as it goes through its swing. And when it's at its maximum speed at the bottom of the swing, the Coriolis force is at its maximum, but it's dependent on the mass of the pendulum, the velocity of the pendulum, and the latitude. So with those
Why is
three
it
things,
dependent
you
on
could
all
work it
that
out.
stuff to get the force? But in Cavendish, maybe there's a good reason for this.
Well, Cavendish is a
We
completely
can
different
boil
thing.
that down to a very specific force.
Well, you're talking about two completely different things. What rotation of the Earth and the attraction between two masses are completely different things.
Right. My torsion balance didn't
Why
swing.
do you think they're the same?
It only rotated. It only oscillated rotationally. It didn't swing back and forth like a Foucault pendulum.
Exactly. I don't know why you think they're the same at all. There's no relationship
I'm
between
saying
them.
that they're the same. I didn't say they're the same. I'm
Well,
just trying to
why are
figure
you
out how much force is moving the pendulum and how that compares to the force that you measure in Cavendish. That's all.
Oh, well, it's absolutely incredibly tiny in Cavendish. That's why it's so difficult to measure. That's why
That's
it
what
took
I'm
someone
saying.
until the 1790s to measure the damn thing. Because, of course, you're measuring the force between two small objects, when normally gravity only has an effect when you're dealing with something the size of the Earth or the Moon. So you've got this tiny, tiny force, which is proportional to mass, and you've only got two baby little masses. So it's tiny.
Right. So
I know the
main
Cavendish
difference,
force is tiny. That's all right. We can move on.
the main difference is just the Foucault pendulum would be precession, and then the Cavendish would be rotational deviation. So there are
The Coriolis
two
force is much
different
bigger.
acts.
But because it's an inertial force, it's also dependent on the mass of the pendulum. Because, of course, what actually it does, it gives you an acceleration. And so as you asked a question about force, then the mass of the pendulum gets involved. If you just asked about acceleration, then we would eliminate the mass of the pendulum. But you asked about the force. And
So
it would
there's
be time
so
sort
the
of
Coriolis force is much bigger than the force that we measure in the Cavendish
in Cavendish.
experiment.
Correct.
The
Absolutely
Cavendish is
correct.
on a torsion balance,
Yep.
which leads people to
Yep.
believe that it would be impacted by the Coriolis force.
Oh my God!
If it were swinging, yes, but it's not swinging. That's going to be the main difference. It's still a pendulum, but you're not giving it a swinging motion. It's only oscillating about itself.
Okay. So that's the difference.
And
I
it's
think that might be the answer.
and it's a
Brian.
horizontal. It's also a horizontal thing, whereas the Foucault pendulum's vertical, and means the maths is completely different.
Sort of. I mean, to be totally fair, my torsion bar was vertical, but it's still the way that it moves. The Foucault pendulum will be.
When did you do this Biodual? I missed all
like
this.
3 weeks ago. I have a link
Oh,
to
bloody
the
hell.
stream with timestamps, but like 3 weeks ago, blah blah
Have you
blah.
got a YouTube channel for about covering this?
No, I streamed it on Twitch. I have a Twitch channel, but I think Bloom might be cutting it up because I know they were looking at it again, at the details of it. But yeah, I'll DM you the link to the video,
Please do,
and
yes.
there's timestamps as well.
So you built all the equipment yourself, did you?
Yeah, I got a wood stabilizing chamber, made it of acrylic, and then I got 0.003 of an inch diameter wire. I got brass weights for the inner, and then I used kettlebell weights on the outside.
How heavy were the weights?
100 gram on the inside, and then I don't know the kilogram, but it was 65 pounds external.
65 pounds. Okay, right. I was just wondering. Okay, so you did have a reasonable chunk of metal there. Okay, or whatever. Lead, presumably.
Well, the kettlebells were cast iron, and then the inner were brass, and I have neodymium magnets to kind of test the effects of magnetism. And the brass had no interaction, but the cast iron for sure, yeah, that stuck to the neodymium.
Right. Okay. Well done. Okay, I didn't know about this. Oh, well done.
Yeah, I'll DM it.
Yeah, please do.
It's a Cavendish, so the only interesting part is the end result, not the process.
Well, I'm impressed if you managed to build such a thing. I mean, it took Blue a good few months to do what he did. I mean, obviously, he's a very impressive piece of kit. But I mean, even to have a sort of stab at it, to do it in a few weeks is quite good.
Well, I think mine was quote unquote easy because I'm not taking actual measurements. I'm not calculating little g. I want to at some point.
Oh, you're
but
just
this
doing a
was-
qualitative thing then. You're not
exactly,
doing...
exactly.
Oh, I see.
Just,
Okay.
just cause and effect. I'm not doing any calculations. At some point I will, but this was just cause effect.
Okay.
So what did you attribute? What is the cause of your?
So the cause, of course, mass. But the initial intent was refuting Chemo's claim that under vacuous conditions, the Cavendish would not deviate. So that was the initial thing to test. So that was, of course, it works. And then because of the materials I used and the results I got, I validated what we already knew: mass attracting mass.
In the modern Cavendish experiments, there's an institution in the University of Boston, or was it MIT or something around somewhere in the Philadelphia type area. There is an institution, American institution, which is the sort of top one that attempts Cavendish. And they've got lots and lots of balls in a vacuum in a very complicated environment, sort of super Cavendish experiment, in which they are getting values for big G, the most accurate values for big G. Which is actually still quite difficult to do, but there are some YouTube people who want to get interested. There are some YouTube channels on it, and there's several papers you can get access to with them detailing. But there's a whole institution in some American university, I can't remember which one it is, I say, that is doing this on a daily basis.
You know, there's something that bothers me about this mass attracting mass. Just even the word mass, I just find.
Would you understand what mass is?
The
concept. Otherwise, they just say matter.
Right.
Well, I mean,
It's
for instance,
just-
QE has
all you're
no
saying
idea what
is
mass
there's stuff there. There's matter, right? It's just an amount of matter, right?
Well,
yeah, that's
no,
fine. I mean, to a certain extent, as far as this discussion goes, that's fine. If we were in a professional environment, like if we were scientists, physicists speaking of this, we would require a lot more than that. But for this discussion, yeah.
Well, you're not
mass and
really
matter,
saying
it's
anything
all just
about a
stuff.
cause. You're just saying I put some stuff next to another stuff, and for some reason they moved. That's all you're saying.
There's a
Right,
force
that's the
between
information that we
masses.
have. Yeah, there's a force. Yeah, and
Right.
it's not attributed to.
Stuff
It's not
attracts stuff.
attributed. It's not
Well,
attributed
that's
to
what you
other
say.
forces that we know of.
Well, we can
Stuff
measure it.
attracts stuff. I understand, but
That's how the moon keeps around the Earth and why it doesn't fling off.
so you say that's the other part that bothers me is you take this very contrived experiment.
It's not
and
contrived.
a very
You have two masses and they show a force between them.
balance beam and very close proximity and small movement, and
So
then you
what?
extrapolate that out
Don't
to the
extrapolate, it's direct
entire
measurement.
Earth and everything, really.
Oh, that's yes.
Well, here-
Extrapolation. Yes, you were extrapolating that force. I mean, we've actually did it around the other way. And we said, what the hell is holding in these planets and the moon to the Earth and the Earth to the sun? You know, if they were going off, we know that from Newton's first law that you need an acceleration to stop it to have circular motion. So there must be a force present. What is this force? And that's how Newton started off doing it. And then he saw an apple falling. Well, suppose that's his story. Then he then saw that, well, okay, there's a force there pulling the apple down. Okay. And then he thought, well, okay, these forces are similar. And now we know by doing things like the Cavendish experiment, which he did 100 years after Newton, he then did a physical measurement of this force between mass. And so we've got experimental proof of it, and we've got a theoretical basis for it. And then, of course, obviously Einstein came along and modified that a bit to account for some slight problems with Newton's idea. But the fundamental is you've got to explain how the moons and planets go around the sun, there must be a force that's doing it. So, and we also know that we're pulled down to the ground. There has to be a force there that has to be explained as well. And it turns out that if you use the same equations for the planets, you get exactly the right results for us being on the ground. They all agree with one another. And also the same theory applies to...
No. You extrapolated out.
All these three things agree with one
extrapolated
another.
Cavendish and the measure of this G out, and that was one of your base assumptions. That's your you have a name for it, right? You set all the other mathematical values for the heavenly bodies against that and other values.
So I want to speak about the extrapolation part.
The fact that they didn't work, or why they have to change shit, and why when they start looking further and further, they get off by more and more.
What are you saying didn't
Mercury
work?
does not fit within them calculations, man.
What are you saying doesn't work?
You've extrapolated too far.
I'm saying that.
Hold
if
on,
you look
Brian.
at a
What are
distant
you
galaxy,
saying doesn't
if you look-
work?
Let me tell you. When you look at distant galaxies and you see the outer stars spinning at damn near the same rate as the stars in the inner part of the galaxy, that works in our galaxy if you want to say we're in a galaxy. But when you look out further, you're out. The energy is not there. The energy
but we
is
can't
missing.
see all the matter,
95% of the energy necessary is not there,
Brian,
bud.
we
Thanks for
can't
asking me
see
a question
things that
and
aren't
interrupting me the whole
alike, so
fucking
we
time.
don't know what's in a galaxy if we can't see it. So therefore, it's implied that there is dark matter there because that happens.
Bro, you don't know what those stars are. You never will. I'm sorry.
We know what the
I
stars.
feel
We
it,
know
pal.
exactly the composition of the sun, even
No,
down to
you
its
don't.
core.
You
Yes,
don't.
we
You know what a star
I
is?
wanted to address
We know
how
lots and
planets
lots
are.
about the
You
sun.
don't know any of that shit, bro.
We know,
I wanna address
we know all sorts of stuff about the sun and stars.
I want to address the extrapolation. To a certain extent,
Metal does.
hold on, Brian. Hold on. So to a certain extent, there is extrapolation involved, but what remains constant is G. So we can manipulate the distance between masses.
Yeah,
we can manipulate.
the fact that G
Hold
remains
on,
constant
Brian.
is your problem,
Hold on, man.
buddy.
I know.
That's your problem, dude.
Let me get to the end before you argue, right? So we can manipulate the distance between masses. We can manipulate the mass sizes themselves. What we find is a constant value for little g, and all that
Big
is
G, hold on. Not little G, big G.
I'm sorry, big G. That's fine. So big G.
It breaks down to oblivion, bro.
Hold on, let me respond when he's done.
I know. So when there's extrapolation involved, it's just the mass size. So if we know that it works at 100 kilograms, 1 kilogram, all these different sizes just depend on the size and the distance, and we come up with the same constant. We can apply that constant to these bigger masses, such as the Earth and the Moon, and we find that the results are consistent. We know that it's a constant, and we know that this force is dependent on distance and size.
All right. So first of all, you haven't validated the mass of the heavenly bodies. What you've done is you've set this value for Earth based on this Cavendish experiment, right? You said this is the mass of Earth. And then you've looked at the relationship between what you think are orbits of these planets going around the stars or whatever you see up there, and you've assigned values to the mass of those things that fit what you're seeing. And then when you start extrapolating that out, it doesn't work. And that's why you add dark matter, dark energy, and these unknowns that you say must be there.
You know that's not true, and that's not how the process goes. It's not
Really?
that we randomly assign numbers.
Correct me then. Tell me how the process went. Tell me how you weighed the moon or you weighed the sun or any of that.
That's going to be totally separate from Cavendish and gravity. That's going to be its
No.
own
That's what I want to know, because we were talking about extrapolating it out to the celestial bodies. That's the part I'm curious about. How did you do that?
Do you want to talk about you want to talk about parallax, where we know distances? Do you want to talk about angular size and knowing the distance?
I want to know how you know the masses of the heavenly bodies, how you extrapolate it out. That's what we were talking about.
I know that's a totally separate conversation from applying big G to all these things. That's a totally different conversation.
No, it's not, because that is the variable that you need to know.
No,
right. We understand that variable. We understand the variable, the constant. All we need is
because you're looking at the heavenly bodies. You see their distance. Hold on. You see their
variable of the constant. Do you hear what you're saying?
Damn it. You see their relationship to each other, the distances, and you assign those a value. And then you say, okay, well, Jupiter must have this much mass. The sun must have this much mass. The moon must have this much mass based on these other things that you're observing, right?
Oh, you can make predictions, sure. And then you can validate those predictions by using other tools and other ways to measure things. Sure. You can make
How did you validate the mass of the moon? How did you validate the mass of the moon?
Because the mass of the moon behaves, or the body of the moon behaves in a way that's consistent with the theory that we've evaluated, and also our movement around the sun also conforms to that evaluation.
Can y'all be
And
man
You
enough?
hold
set
on, let
the
me, Brian, let me
values for
finish.
the
Let
mass
me finish.
based
Hold on,
on what
Brian,
you
let me
saw,
finish. Nearly there.
Rumpus.
Let
Five
him
more
finish.
seconds. 5 more seconds. And also the orbit of the moons around Jupiter, etc. And we can send little bodies like our satellites up to Jupiter, etc. And they behave in exactly the right way that conforms to our what we've decided, what I measured their mass to be. So all these things come together and agree with one another.
How
Finish.
convenient.
Well, it's just reality.
How
Yes,
convenient that
yeah, it's
the satellite
reality.
you
It
didn't
all
send up.
works.
That's perfect.
It all works because it's
Can
real.
you
Because
be
it's
man enough and admit that they're all based on the assumption that Earth is nearly the same size as Venus? Can you be man enough and admit the assumption to begin with?
So hold on. You're just following the Riley line, who, when we didn't know the distance
I've
to the.
done my own
Hold on.
research.
Let me finish,
Who
Brian. You've
cares
just come up with a
what line
really
I'm
crap.
following, dude?
You've
You're
just
starting
come
off
up with a
fallacy,
really,
bro.
really crap point, and I've got to deal
Dude,
with
I
it.
don't want to start off
You've
with
just
bullshit.
hold
I
on.
want to see
You've
if you're
just
man
come up
enough
with a
to
really
admit
crap
and
point.
start
We've
with
got to
assumptions.
deal with it because it is brought up by other people as well. When we were the first people to guess the distance to the sun, they said, oh, I think it was Huygens, who then said, well, if we assume that the Venus is the same size, then we know the Venus is the same size as the Earth, and we know from Kepler's laws what its orbit is, and therefore we can work out its distance. But that was the very first event. Hold on, nearly there. And then a mere 10 years later, we used another way of working out the distance to the sun, using the distance to Mars, and by working out with triangulation. And so this idea, this Venus thing you've picked up on, of just copying Riley, was never used for more than 10 years in 1670 odd. So why are you repeating it now? We do not use that at all, that assumption. No one uses that assumption, Brian. And for you to claim that it does means you're being as stupid as Riley. Don't do it. You're better than that.
Can you be man enough and admit it was all started with assumption?
The very first guess of the distance to the sun used the assumption that the Venus was the same size as the Earth. Within 10 years, hold on! Within 10 years of that assumption was no longer used, and other methods were used to determine the distance of the sun. Jesus Christ.
Other assumptions.
No, you didn't listen to what I said. You see, you didn't listen, did you? Using triangulation, they were able to work out the absolute distance to Mars. And from that and Kepler's laws, they were then able to work out the distance to the sun. It did not involve Venus at all.
Brian, there are some. Brian, there are some assumptions involved, and what we call that is a hypothesis. But that's not where it ends.
Let me say this.
We don't make the assumption. We don't make the assumption. Hold on, Brian.
You're forgetting that all these bodies.
And you're being a rude cunt right now.
Listen, hold on.
And you're being a rude cunt right now, right?
Let me respond to Rumpus, please.
There are assumptions that are made.
Can I respond to Rumpus, dude?
No, because you're interrupting me. I'm not gonna.
Using
Go ahead.
gravity
You can interrupt me. Go ahead.
out from the sun to fucking Pluto, okay, and Jupiter reaches all the way to the sun and all these, but they're not affecting each other, are they? So
yes, they
until
are.
You come up with something,
of course they are.
Until you come up with something.
That's why the orbit's not stable. That's why we don't know.
The worse your G falls apart, bro. The further you look, you're missing 95% of the energy necessary to explain these galaxies, man. And you won't admit it, dude.
Well, stop changing the subject. We can deal with the galaxy question in a second. Yes, Jupiter and the other planets do affect one another. This is how Neptune was discovered from the perturbation of the orbit of Uranus. We know that Jupiter causes, for instance, we know that Jupiter causes our orbit. It's part of the cause of our precession of the axial precession. The planets do interact with one another, but it's small. Jesus Christ. Let me finish a sentence, Brian. Do you want me to interrupt you and stop you finishing a sentence? If you want to start talking about galaxies, you can.
Every time I open my mouth, bro.
No, you interrupted me in the middle of me responding to your question. You seem to like doing that, and then so you can confuse the answer.
Guys, come on. Let's have a back and forth.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, well, how about letting me finish my bloody sentence?
He starts off by saying I'm changing the subject when we're talking about Big G. I'm talking about Big G and how it fails miserably when with their own observations, dude. He can try and
does not
say
fail
I'm changing the
anywhere.
subject, even though I'm still talking about
do
Big
you accept with galaxies?
It does not explain the fucking rotations out in galaxies.
Brian, you understand we can't steal the mass from the galaxy.
Are we?
Brian, these galaxies, do you understand that even things like brown dwarfs, which are very not very bright stars, we can't see those in the distant galaxies. We do not
Yeah,
know
what about
that
these
we
new
can't.
observations,
So
though,
just
Rumpus?
because we can't see the bright things in a distant galaxy, that doesn't mean to say there's not something there.
No,
You
no,
can't
that
make the
includes
assumption
the
which you're
things
doing.
you
You're
can't
saying
see. Bro, the
that the
95%
only mass of a
includes black
Hold on,
galaxy
Brian. Let him
is
finish.
caused by the. You're saying that the only mass of a galaxy is the bright stuff, which is a flawed, fallacious assumption. And I'm saying you can't make that assumption. There is other stuff in there that's dark, whether it's dead stars, black holes, whatever. You cannot go off what you can see. Finished.
He didn't even let me finish, but now hopefully it's my turn. Okay, that calculation uses black holes, quasars, all these brown dwarfs. What about the
You don't know what they're there.
Hold on. These
How
stars
do you know
Let him finish, Rumpus.
Well, hold on, man. Let me fucking finish. Okay, now these new observations have showed stars going supernova more than once, more than twice. Okay, there's new information that kills y'all's shit, dude. You just don't want to acknowledge it.
Brian, you cannot claim to be able to see all the dark stuff in a galaxy. It's ridiculous. You're basing the
model
fact
is
that
counting black holes. Bro, if you're counting a black hole...
How can we account for all the black holes if we can't see them? Jesus Christ.
Even with black holes...
How do you know how many black holes are in the distant galaxy, Brian?
They're using them in their fucking equations.
How do you know how many black holes there are in a distant galaxy?
How do you know if you can't see them?
We don't know. That's the point.
All right, then why are you using them in your equations?
No, we're not using it in our equation. We're saying there's a mass defect. And he's saying, Brian is saying, that there's a problem because there's not enough mass, or there's too much mass. When there's more, and therefore G is flawed. But he doesn't know how much mass there is in a galaxy that's exhibiting a problem, and neither does science.
But what
well,
you
actually,
don't want to
actually, there are some
interrupt
ways
me
of.
again,
Some galaxies you
probably
can
interrupt me
work out.
again, but
Hold
for
on,
the last time I'm
nearly
going
there.
to get this
You
out.
can work out the mass of some galaxies by the gravitational lensing of the galaxy. So you can then work out the absolute mass of a galaxy, and then you can say, well, we can only see this much mass of it. Therefore, the rest of the mass of the galaxy is mass that we can't see.
According to Michikaku and other astrophysicists, okay, that counting the black holes, the quasars, and all these things, they're still off by 95%. So if they want to discredit the stuff they can't see, they're going to be off by like 99.99. It's the black holes and all the fucking fantastical shit that gets them even fucking close.
Okay, the way that's worked out is a different way. What you can do, we can know from theory, and well, actually from measuring, looking at cosmic microwave background radiation, how many protons and neutrons were created in the Big Bang, and then we go and look at the. Then we go and look at the galaxies and the stars, and we add up the masses using techniques like the gravitational lensing, we think, and we find there's a lot more mass out there that cannot be accounted for by adding up all the protons and neutrons. So we know there's a lot of stuff out there that is not protons and neutrons.
You would think at that point you would realize, oh yeah, this is bullshit what I'm doing right now.
No, it just means over the last 100 years, Brandon. Brian, let me just answer, Brandon, please, then you can come back at me. Brandon, we have worked out the existence of particles like neutrinos and positrons just from the fact that there's something going on, and we're saying there's something missing. We know there's an energy missing. Therefore, we're saying, there's probably a particle involved. And then, 50 years later, we find the particle. So quite often you come across situations where you've got something missing. You then propose a solution, and then 50 years later, you find that proposal is correct because it matches all the other parts of the physics.
Later, and
you know what you
time y'all discovered these things, they come off the legs of their funding about to get cut, and all of a sudden, hey, we found it.
So Brandon, doesn't
you know what you sound like when you say that, Rumpus? When you start talking about, we know we can count the atoms from the Big Bang, and we can add up all the masses that everywhere. You sound like the guys who used to say and argue about how many angels could fit on the head of a pin. That's what I think about when I hear you talk like that. It's ridiculous. Well, you are way off in La La Land. No, you really are. You have to at least acknowledge that it's highly theoretical.
No, it's not. Because you don't understand the physics. You're not familiar with the physics. And if you understood the cosmic microwave background, remember, we have got a picture out there in the sky of what the universe was like 100,000 years after the Big Bang.
Bro,
We've actually got a picture of the universe, as it was at 300,000 years old. So
Listen,
therefore, we
bro,
can
you
count.
don't
We
know what
effectively can
stars
use that
are,
to
you don't
count
know what
the
galaxies
amount
are,
of
you never
matter
will.
in the
I
universe,
apologize, bro,
because the
but you'll never
brightness,
know, bro.
the
You're not God.
brightness of that cosmic microwave background radiation is related to the amount of matter, of normal
You are
matter.
in a religion, Rumpus.
No,
It is
this
a
is based on science.
religion.
No, it's not. You're just
It
dismissing.
is.
From a point of ignorance. You see, the thing is, the
No.
theory we have, inflation theory, says what the patterns in the cosmic microwave background radiation should be. When there are other theories predicted other patterns, and so we find that there's one
You went
prediction.
5
Let me
theories
finish.
deep so far. In
Jesus
this conversation,
Christ.
every
Here we
fucking
go.
thing
But this
is
is how
supported
science
by
works,
a theory.
Brandon. You come up with you have a phenomenon, and then you come up with several theories to try and match up with the phenomenon. And then when you get more detail, and you come up with a theory and saying, that seems to agree. And then you measure things in the case of the cosmic microwave background radiation. You get more detail, and it matches the theory even better. So you say, this theory looks as though it accounts for what's going on in the cosmic microwave background radiation. And that's how all science and hypotheses have worked.
How
You
many
come up
times
with a
did he just say
hypothesis,
theory?
and then you
Notice
see
he
if it
never said
makes
the word
predictions.
measurement.
You then see if it makes predictions that matches reality.
Rumpus, you don't think there was people fucking a couple hundred years ago saying Newton's done the calculations and we know the sun's 1 million miles away. This is how science works. We know for a fact the sun is 1 million miles away and all this shit, dude. You sound like one of these fucking old English fucking retards who won't let fucking science move forward with the electromagnetic model.
But that's exactly what we're talking about. You're the one who's saying you won't let science move forward. You're the one who's denying dark matter, dark energy, and all the new stuff. And we've got Brandon saying, it just sounds ridiculous. You are the Luddite here, Brian. I'm the one who's looking ahead. I'm the one who's accepting the new science. And you're denying the old science. You've yet to get to grips with the new stuff.
All of our fresh minds out of college fucking getting sucked into your fucking model like there's no other possibilities, bro.
But you're denying evidence. You don't understand basic physics, Brian.
Bro, and you're tying them in a knot,
you still don't understand the science of Galileo from 500 years ago. You don't even understand. I think I remember you, or certainly Brandon's, whether on a train traveling at 400 miles an hour, you'll be able to detect it's moving. We still got people in here, this panel, who claim that you'll be able to detect a constant velocity situation, where Galileo showed that in the 1500s, that you don't. If you're traveling at constant velocity, you can't tell the difference between that and being stationary.
Let me fill you in on a secret, and I'll give you the floor. Let me fill you in on a secret, okay? Your model has hit a stop sign. Let me finish, okay? It is slammed into a fucking wall, okay? And until we fix it, okay, then you can keep saying that everything is how it is, nobody understands shit, but your model's hit a stop sign because their scale is off tremendously. Deal with it. Sorry.
I have no idea what point you're making. I can barely hear you. You're distorted again. Whatever point you made is wrong. I didn't understand it.
If you didn't understand it, hold on, Rumpus. If you didn't understand it, how do you know it was wrong? Hold on.
It just seemed like gibberish through a tunnel. So I mean,
this is what you said.
Through a tunnel.
This is what you said.
It was
you're
gibberish,
wrong,
and it was distorted.
And then you
so
follow
gibberish.
But you
that
say
might have been
you're
a little
wrong.
bit. What I meant to say, guys, is this. I meant to say your model has hit a stop sign, and the reason your model's hit a stop sign is because the scale is off horribly.
Right, now I can hear you properly. You seem to have changed, right?
Yeah, your scale, the scale that y'all measured
What are
is
you
off
talking about?
horribly.
What scale?
Because you're using the wrong. You're using the wrong force, bro. If you use electromagnetism and pull it back,
if you pull it back,
the scale, the size.
Let him answer, Rumpus.
You think you are looking.
He keeps on repeating. I'm asking. He won't answer the question.
I'm trying to fucking answer, dude.
Are you talking about?
Dude. Shut up and let me answer your fucking questions, bro. Okay. The scale, meaning the distances you think you're observing due to gravity, all this is due to gravity, is wrong. You're not looking.
Well, you're just asserting. You might as well assert that unicorns
and that's
exist.
why you're off by 95%. That's why your energy is off. You're scaling it. Your scale is wrong by probably 95%, bro.
You're just asserting this without any basis in evidence whatsoever. You might as well assert that unicorns exist. Just saying something, Brian, without any evidence or any logic or any basis in physics, I'm afraid, is zero, null. You haven't said anything of
this
value.
comes from your model, bro. This information comes from your model that y'all are off by 10 to the negative 27 or 10 to the 27. That's not me talking. Are
you talking about the virtual, the thing that Michio
That's your people
the biggest
telling
problem
me
with
this,
quantum
bro.
physics.
Just
Yeah,
because you don't want to acknowledge it, don't.
Are you talking about the
don't
error?
point at me for being ignorant.
Are you talking about the 10 to the 120 value difference between the energy,
Yeah,
the
the
vacuum
energy. It's missing.
the vacuum
The missing
energy?
energy.
Right.
Yeah,
That thing.
the energy.
Yes.
Yeah, the missing
Right.
energy.
Okay, indeed. We have a problem at the moment where using one bit of physics, we believe that the vacuum energy should be one thing, and what we find is another. And the difference is absolutely
Bro, you're not trying to
enormous.
fix it, though,
Oh
bro.
my God!
Y'all are not trying to
finish
fix
the
it.
sentence, Brian.
Yeah,
I'm just describing
but we've heard it a million times, bro.
I'm just describing
We've heard it a million times, bro. Go ahead.
Brian. How about letting
Dude,
me finish
if every time I say one sentence, I gotta listen to a fucking essay,
Brian?
it's not even worth it, bro.
I was just describing the problem you were outlining, although you got it wrong. Just to clear it up for everybody's benefit. There is a vacuum energy. There's a vacuum energy, in theory, that should be one value, and the value that we measure is another value, and the difference between them is the biggest number of error in physics is 10 followed by 120 zeros. Now,
and instead of trying to fix it, you're gonna just cling on to gravity.
Brian,
instead of trying to fix it, you cling on to. So you don't like me responding, do you?
10 seconds, Brian. Then you can take over.
I'll give it up to you, Brandon.
No. How about let me finish this sentence, and then you can get a go, and I won't interrupt you. Right. So we've got this error in physics, but the point is, physics doesn't know everything yet. So we've got a problem like we did 100 years ago with Einstein and general relativity and the existence of positrons and electrons and protons, etc., and radioactivity and fusion. We're learning all the time. And currently we have a big problem with this particular value, but we're going to solve it one day, but we don't know the answer yet. So we have a problem. Go ahead, Brian. I've finished.
Well, you tell me I'm wrong by quoting your guy. So me quoting Michio Kaku, and your first answer is, you're wrong. You don't understand. That makes
I've agreed with you about this one particular thing, Brian, but you talked about scale, and that wasn't the point you were making. I think you don't understand the problem. You just used the word scale as though that was some general.
Let's think of something.
Now it
what
turns out, I think what you meant by scale was this issue that Michio Kaku brought up about the difference in the vacuum
what can we change,
measures. But you didn't say that, did you, Brian? You just said the word scale, and that does not equate to the problem Michio Kaku was talking about.
May I respond, Your Highness?
Go ahead.
Okay, what could they change to knock off the 120 or the 27 fucking zeros? What could they change? Let me tell you, one of them would be fucking scale. Thank you.
Scale of what?
Scale of the size of the galaxy. Okay, you could change the scale.
Nothing to do with galaxies.
Hold on. You could
this 10 to 120 has got nothing to do with galaxies.
You could change the distances. Okay, what do you say we change? Y'all won't change nothing. You add shit instead of taking away shit that you
clearly a problem,
Brian. You add shit like dark matter, dark energy, all this shit. It's never fucking.
Right, it's to do with dark energy. Agreed. It is to do with dark energy.
Me the whole time I was responding.
Oh shit!
Go ahead then. Okay, I'll let you go ahead. Then you let me respond. Okay, go ahead.
I'll hand it over to Brandon. I've made my point.
Oh Jesus! Right. So the problem is, we've got this thing to do with is revolving around dark energy. So this vacuum energy business, which we therefore believe is the cause of the dark energy, i.e. the cause of the expansion of the universe.
Don't say things we don't even know what they are. Dark energy. Don't use that term. It's fucking.
Oh, so you then interrupt me, Brian. You say hand over to Brandon, and then I start speaking, and then you interrupt. You do that every time.
Yeah, I'm returning the favor.
Now, I start to explain, and then you feel obliged to interrupt. And then
because you start using terms that don't exist.
Yeah, so you said you'd let me finish. Yeah, Brian, I let you finish, but you insist on interrupting every time. So the point is, you won't let me finish a goddamn sentence, will you? Brian, shut up and then you have to go. Let's take turns, for Christ's sake.
No, you interrupt me every time.
Take turns, Brian.
Okay, all right, everybody's an asshole. Go ahead,
Jesus Christ. So the vacuum energy business is related to the expansion in the universe. That's where this 10 to the 120. So the idea is that this energy is held that's responsible for increasing the size of the universe, which is dark energy, which is related to this number, this 10 to 120. I don't know how that's going to be fixed, and Michio Kaku doesn't have to be fixed, but it will be fixed one day. Go ahead, Brian. God, I've lost half the points.
Okay, I meant to say, and I forgot it was 120 zeros. That's a number we can't even fathom. My whole point is what can we do let's start over. Let's start from the beginning. Let's not make assumptions about the size of anything. Let's change the forces to forces we know and can prove and can measure. Okay, besides, gravity or relative fucking disequilibrium. Let's go let's make a model out of electromagnetism, and let's scale back the distances, and let's not assume that Venus is the same size as Earth. Let's not assume that.
No one does, Brian. No one does. Jesus, I thought we'd been over this.
You couldn't
10
help
minutes
it, could
ago,
you?
I explained to you that no one assumes that Venus is the same size of Earth. No one. Literally no one.
Okay, so Venus ain't the same size as Earth? Bro?
No, it isn't, and no one says it is. Why are you
so it's not
making
close.
it up?
Okay,
I went through this 10 minutes ago.
in your fucking
and you
model,
complained
Venus
bitterly
is almost-
throughout it. Then
Why
and
is it
now
called our
shows I
sister
should have
planet?
gone and emphasized it more because you didn't understand what
Why
I
is it
said.
called
to
our
you.
sister planet, sister?
I didn't hate. What was that?
Why is Venus called our sister planet? He said.
Because it's similar in size and similar in position to us. So what?
That's what I just said, you jackass. Okay, now the whole thing is
it's not the same. No one assumes anything about the size
let's
of
dial
Venus.
it back.
We measured it.
All I'm saying
No
is let's
one
get some of these young
assumes
bright
the
minds
size
to
of
dial it
Venus.
back a notch. All I'm saying is let's get some of these young bright minds, okay, with a fresh slate, dial it back a notch, and try and come up with some other models, man.
Go for it, Brian. Let us know what you get.
127 zeros wrong, you know.
Yeah, but that's
Let
the
us
only
know what
problem
you get,
we've got, Brian. All our physics has created computers, buildings, and aeroplanes, and an understanding and make predictions about things. We've got a fantastically useful science. We've got something we don't understand in one corner of our knowledge. We don't quite fully understand about the expansion of the universe. But everything else
but
works
when you take the
wonderfully
knowledge
well.
we do have, no, here's the problem. When you take the knowledge we do have of light and the speed of light, the speed we measure one way, two way, whatever you want to call it, and we apply it to what we see, it falls apart. So I'm not saying that our measurements of light are wrong. We got rangefinders, we got all this technology, but when you apply it to the heavens, it fucking quickly breaks down.
It works perfectly, Brian.
Y'all heard it here first, y'all. The galaxy, the cosmos works perfectly.
Brian,
Promise.
Brian, you do realize the fact that you can talk to people all over the world is an indicator that these things work as advertised, right?
Oh, that's pretty close to iPhones prove the globe. Bowdule. That's
yeah, I'm not
very
saying
close
that. What
to
I'm
it.
saying is that's a strong indicator because the people that created it and the people that invented this technology and use this technology modify it, make it better, all these things
No, the people
are
inventing this
operating
technology
on
are
these
not looking
principles
out.
that we understand.
Engineering has to do with theoretical
Do you think that
astrophysics.
building a computer relies on the
No.
Earth spinning? Really?
No, because what Brian is proposing is that because we came across this one problem within cosmology, that we should take a step back on everything and introduce something else in place of it. That's what he's talking about. That's why he brought up electromagnetism.
He's talking about the stars and stuff, right? That has nothing to do with the things that we make here.
Right, so there's no problem.
Literally
Bob,
no
can you repeat
computer,
that?
no
We got speed of
vehicle,
light.
literally nothing in the
So we got
world
speed of
relies
light,
on us
we
knowing what's
got
in the
gravity.
sky. Not one single thing.
So we have speed of light, we have gravity, that's fine. So everything's cool on Earth, right? No more arguments?
Earth's all right. Fine.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not
I mean,
a single bit of it relies on
aside from the
space,
shape,
not one bit.
let's just talk
Not even a
about
little
the-
bit.
Yeah, except for orbital mechanics, right? But that's not important.
None of it relies on being in space or what's in space. None of it.
Yeah, except for satellites. Except for satellites, but you know.
No, they don't rely on being in space.
Yes, they do.
No,
a
they
little
don't.
bit. Just
You
you know,
wouldn't have
No,
GPS.
not at all. They don't rely on that at all.
And you can see the satellites. You can see the geostationary satellites.
Whether or not you think that we're using the technology, we absolutely do have balloon technology.
Hold on, Brian,
Whether or
give
not you
Bob
think
a
we're
chance.
using it doesn't change the fact that it exists.
That's fine. No one says balloons
So
don't
it doesn't. Us having these things don't rely on things being in space. They could be on
They do.
balloons. That's possible.
No, they couldn't.
No, they couldn't. No,
So they don't rely on being in space at all. Not even a little bit. Like I said.
How many times did we say, yes, it does rely on being in space? And then when you said on balloons,
doesn't.
you just said, no, they can't be on balloons.
Yes, they can.
No, they can't.
There's nothing that stops them from being on balloons.
Yes,
A little bit. There's a few things. It'll be the distances. It'll be the interaction with the atmosphere. It'll be particular triangulation coordinates, the systems for that, and also not fucking seeing them.
Not seeing them?
You can pick up the signals from GPS satellites to
Really?
establish where they are. If you were competent in radio in radio and RF,
Yeah,
you would be able to determine where the signals, the GPS signals, are coming from, and you would then be able to say, "Oh, look, that's over there. Oh, look, and it's just moved at 17,000 miles
I
an hour."
understand
Which
the method of
balloons
accepting
don't
exactly
do.
what you're told,
So
and
you
all
could
the numbers are
establish
exactly what they
yourself,
say
if
they are.
you had the
I get that.
competence
Okay.
to see that they're coming from satellites, and you could invalidate that entire argument
Sure, you
yourself.
could.
But of course, you're not
Okay,
capable
buddy.
of doing that.
Sure.
Yeah, sure, you're not capable of doing it.
More story time.
You see, you just
Oh, these
dismissing
things that are done.
reality.
They're done by people who are that interested in it, where they can make these calculations. They get these signals from a
Sure they
particular
do.
direction. The timing of these signals indicate a particular distance. You could triangulate the fucking satellites if you want.
Sure.
The only thing
Just like you came with
about-
just like you came up with your conclusions of your test, Bio.
What that I
the same.
had a scientific method, nulls, alternatives,
There's
all of these things.
There's not
that
actually
and then
you
I
doing
came to
anything.
results. Oh, that's your
Well, you're
claim
not
that
doing
I
anything
did.
new, right? You're not.
Oh yeah, no, it's not anything new. You're 100% correct. My experiment provided zero extra knowledge and information.
Just like the
to
first one.
humanity.
It's new for
Just like the
biofuel.
first one.
It's new for biodual. I mean, that's the point is that we guys, everything that we talk about has been talked about much better by people who actually do this professionally. Bio's decided that he's going to do his own individual thing in fantastic stuff, and so he personally can feel he's making his own
I haven't
progress.
seen it, and it's fantastic, Rumpus. That's just your bias speaking.
I gave him the video. He has the video with timestamps as I provide.
You give it right now,
more
Bio.
notes.
Come on. And before he
Oh,
saw
half
it, he
an hour
said,
ago?
"Oh, that's fantastic work."
Yeah, because he
Shut up.
understands that Cavendish is consistent and repeatable.
Yeah,
So it's one of those things. If I'm presenting it and saying it worked, there's no evidence to say that it doesn't. So it's a safe assumption to go, "Oh, you did it and you got results." Oh, and you're not saying that they're surprising results? Okay, well, just like all the other fucking Cavendishes.
Well, I
Okay.
assumed he wasn't lying. I mean, obviously he could have been lying to me, and I say that. But given the fact that I think Biodual is honest, and therefore because I think he's honest, I think he's told me something that's true, and therefore if I accept it's true, I believe he's done a really good thing. So I think that's perfectly reasonable. Once someone has established their sort of trust, I can. I'm going to say that if what they say, they make a claim that's reasonable. And obviously, he's had seen a unicorn or something. I might be thinking a bit odd, but he's doing something that can be done by reasonably sensible people. And the fact that he's done it and claimed to have done it and seems
Dude, I
demonstrated.
watched Blue change his shit 5 different times to try and get his cabinet working properly. Then he put sandbags down and it stalled miserably. That shit is not consistent. Y'all don't know.
There's a big difference, Brian.
Behind it, there's electromagnetism that is not fully understood.
Yeah,
obviously involved in Cavendish.
There's a big difference between.
Or you bury the fucking lead.
There's a big difference between.
I have a
There's a big
question
difference between what Blue did and what I did. Blue is taking actual measurements. He's trying to get precise measurements to calculate for G. I can give a shit about that.
The sandbags stalled, bro. They stalled. They did not attract each other.
Brian.
They
That's
sat
right.
there. They did not oscillate, I want to say.
I know, but I'm still going to explain this. What he's doing is he's trying to come to an extreme precise instrument. He's trying to calculate G the way that professional scientists are. I could give two shits about it. I just want cause and effect. Because my standards are low, I can work around these things. Because Blue standards are so high, he has to fiddle endlessly with everything.
I got a question for you
honest
regarding
and admit all
Cavendish
the
and how you
electromagnetic
guys
effects,
extrapolated out to kind of go back to that subject. So you've got let's say that you put these two things together, these two lead balls, and they there is some attraction or whatever movement between them. How do you then take that and apply it to things falling down to the earth?
Easy. So, as I was trying to say earlier, we have a constant involved. So, just for example, I'm not making these claims with precise values. Just as an example, if you run an experiment using 1 kilogram weights and you get, let's just say, 1 force. Let's just say 1 Newton of force. Fuck it, whatever. 1 force from that 1 kilogram. Now you change your equipment to 5 kilograms. Now you get 5 force, 5 Newtons of force. Now you do 100 kilograms and you get no, fuck no. And then you have 100 kilograms, and then you have 100 force. If we know that this shit is consistent and it's proportional to the mass, then we can say, okay, this must be occurring for Earth. And if we can determine the mass of the Earth, we can make
Brandon.
fucking perfect time to interrupt, Brian. So
Can
if
you
we can
repeat
make
your
this,
question, Brandon?
if we can make this determination,
I'm waiting
if we
until
can
he
make this
finishes, and then I'm going to
determination,
repeat it.
if we can make this determination of the mass of the Earth, we can make a prediction about how much force it would be involved. And I would go as far as to say, we know the mass of the Earth, we know the gravitational force involved, so we therefore know and predict about 9.8 meters per second squared
I go as
amount
far
of
as saying lead
acceleration.
attracts lead and also
based
lead
on
repels
this.
lead. We observed both during Cavendish. Lead attracts lead, lead repels lead. Get
So
your
that's
facts
how we can
beyond-
extrapolate.
Can I just summarise what BioJules said, if I can have my own go, what BioJules said? Brandon, we know, say, for instance, two masses, bodies of a particular mass attract with one of a particular force, and there's a particular acceleration between them. Therefore, if we know the mass of one of these bodies and we know how it's accelerated towards the Earth, we therefore can work out the mass of the Earth because it's proportional to
Once
mass.
you do a Cavendish in water,
Brandon,
It's a very simple
Did
you realize that they already have a constant before they test anything? They already have a constant.
No, there wasn't.
That's how.
Not the first
That
time.
you started by saying
there was
that.
no constant.
We already.
There was no
Hold on,
constant.
Bio.
There was
That's
no
why I
constant.
wanted to
That's what he
interrupt you.
found.
See,
He found
Bio.
the constant.
That's
He didn't have the constant beforehand.
Bio. That's why I wanted to interrupt you, because you started by saying we know the constant.
No, we didn't say that.
No,
He started by saying
he,
that.
he then went on to say how he knows the constant, supposedly.
No, hold on.
But I'm trying to. I'm remembering back to Cavendish. Hang on, guys.
Is to determine the value of the
Ryan.
constant.
So anyway, my follow-up.
BioJules blew.
The follow-up to
not
BioJules' question, I did have a follow-up, which was, I don't remember Cavendish doing that, varying the weights that he used.
He did.
That's fine. He did. But
Hold on, Bio. He did. He used different weights.
He used different size weights on the torsion bar. Can you,
Yes.
Can you cite that for me in his paper? Because I don't remember that.
Yeah.
It's in his journals. I'll find it too.
Wait,
One of
I
us
don't
will.
think he used the weights on the torsion bar. I think he changed the weights of the other weights that were around it.
Oh,
Most likely, because that's way easier. But if the hypothesis
no,
is
he didn't
true,
change the
it won't-
weights
it
in the
won't matter.
case,
Yes,
the wooden
he
case,
did.
did he?
Yes,
Right, the
he did.
external
I don't
No, not in the
think
wooden
so.
cage. The ones around it. I told you. That's what I just said.
You mean the balls?
Well, they're both balls. I don't know which balls you're
Let's-
referring to.
Let's call them external masses.
I don't know what
and
you're
internal
referring
masses.
to.
That's easier. Right, so let's call them external masses. That's a good one. So the external masses, he changed that, which therefore changed the forces between the external masses and the internal masses.
He changed material.
Yes.
Yeah, he didn't change the size of the balls. He changed the material, right? He didn't. He changed both things at once.
I'm pretty sure the sizes changed on the external masses, but what for sure happened is that he used different he used different values of mass. Now the particular diameter of the spheres that he used, I can't for sure say. I'm sure I can find it here in the next 10 minutes of researching, but he did change the amount of mass that he used.
Correct.
Yeah, let's see that, because I think he may have changed the type of material that he used as well.
Well, he changed the mass. Who cares? He changed the mass.
Well, you're changing multiple variables then, aren't you, Rumpus?
Yeah, to a certain extent, you can once you have a baseline. So yes, that will change. If you use a different sized mass as far as like the diameter, then you will have particular things change within your equation. But the end result is always the constant. That's why I was talking about the distance. When you
Well, it wouldn't have took them all them years if he didn't went searching for a constant. He already knew the number they need.
Brandon, if he did use different materials, I'm not sure he did, but if he did, the point is he got the same result for the value of big G, so it clearly was not.
He didn't even calculate big G though.
In effect, he did. Although
he
didn't come
calculate
up with
big G. That's not what his purpose was. So
no,
he didn't sit down and say,
doing it,
I use different size masses and it came out to this big G. He somehow calculated the mass of the Earth, supposedly, without realizing that there was a constant, without using
he found the constant in the process. In the
He did
process
re-
of doing this
he
experiment,
did
he
realise
found
the
it. Yeah.
concept. He just didn't bother to calculate because in those days,
If you think
hold
that
on,
they didn't have a
Brian,
number,
can I just finish my
that's it.
goddamn sentence,
You're fooling
Brian?
yourself.
Brian, let me finish my sentence. In those days, people like Newton, and the language was used, you would say this is proportional to that, and they used ratios. And Blue actually did a video about this about a month ago, which went into this process. And they didn't talk. The way they formulated their maths, they didn't say y is equal to a constant times x. They tended to say y is proportional to x, and they left the constant that related it to 2 as a ratio of other things. So that's
in Cavendish's experiments is always
quick point, y'all.
it's always described as a 1.61 pound lead sphere and a 348 pound lead sphere. I've never seen anything else mentioned when they talk about the result he got. He used one size match.
Rumpus, before you respond.
That's understandable, but it's in his
when
journals.
I seen
I'm
Blue
finding
working
it
this
right
thing
now.
out, he had to change things like 5 times before he got it right. Okay, so if you're telling me that they didn't have the numbers objective that they needed to achieve beforehand, then you're fooling yourself. Okay, it might not be in all the papers and everything, but I guarantee you, when Blue did it, he had to change the different strings. Okay, he had to change the different electromagnetic effects and all this stuff to get it right. Okay, he didn't just hang up the balls and then just start recording calculations. Now, what he built was good. I'll give him props on that. What he built was fine, but dude, he had to fine tune that shit to get it to do what he wanted to fucking do. Let's be honest.
He found some random errors, and so did Cavendish. He found that the wire he used wasn't giving consistent results, and then he improved the wire like Blue did, and then he did get consistent results. It's very simple. I mean, you seem to think that you're going to get a perfect experiment will be perfect immediately, and there's nothing for you to do to improve it. Life is full of things when you have a big and you find out.
What are you talking about, bro?
You don't. My God! I mean, how stupid can you be?
At one point, he
have
proved
problems in them, and then you have to design and improve them to try and improve the result. If you find you're getting an experiment with wildly different results, and then you say, "Oh, look, it turns out the wire I was using doesn't give reliable forces when you rotate it," so you then improve
being a
the wire.
dingleberry.
Stop interrupting. Stop
Hold
interrupting.
on, man.
Stop interrupting. And so then
I'm listening to a zealot,
the quality
dude.
of the
You're
wire,
defending your
and then
religion,
you
bro.
get
Admit it.
results that are consistent. It's
This
an
clown is
obvious
defending
thing
his
when you
religion,
get
dude.
random
Everything
results.
he
It's
changed
an
was
indicator
electromagnetic, bro.
that you're not doing
He
something
made-
as well as you should. You've got other
He
variables
made all
involved.
these changes to the electromagnetism, and then he gets it right, and he says, "Oh, it's gravity." And so I changed this electromagnetically. I grounded all of them together. First, I had lead repelling lead at one point. He makes all these changes electromagnetically, and then he gets it how he wants it, and bam, it's gravity. It wasn't electromagnetism, him zeroing in, getting it just right.
Brian, why don't you repeat the experiment? Why don't you repeat the
I'm
experiment?
working on it. I just molded lead balls. I just molded my 2 big lead balls.
I'm sure you'll
I got to
do it
mold 2
once.
small
It
ones.
will work
Listen,
perfect, Brian. I'm sure.
you just asked me a question. Let me respond.
Like
I just molded the
all your experiments, you only need to do them once. You can come into conclusion after 5 minutes of some kind of experiment.
Simple ones, yeah. Simple ones
Yeah,
that are common
like a
sense that I shouldn't even have to do.
and
I like demonstrating things y'all cannot.
Yeah,
You say,
like a
"Oh, we
laser
can't demonstrate
to-
that." Oh,
like a
bullshit.
laser
We fucking demonstrate it real easy.
like a laser to demonstrate wait, hey, don't laugh.
The penumbra.
Yeah, the penumbra, right? With the laser.
Yeah, I scaled it the way
With
the
the
sun
laser.
has an angle around the
With the
fucking moon. I
laser.
scaled it to size, man.
How?
I
You
used
need
2
the
lasers.
laser the
By the way,
size-
I used 2
you need the
lasers. Wait,
laser wider than
Rumpus said we
than
had
your ball.
Rumpus said we had like a
You
.049
need a
degree
laser
angles with the
wider
lasers
than
coming
your
around the Earth
ball.
for the Umbra.
Oh.
So I used 2 lasers. I didn't just use one. I used 2 lasers, and I angled them outside of the moon. Okay,
Yeah,
to
great.
show the Umbra, to show you that there's no fucking Umbra, dude.
You see,
You don't like
you
let
do
me
it
finish.
wrong,
Nobody likes let me
you
finish
come
a
to a
single sentence.
conclusion.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Once is enough for you.
Anyway, it's about that time, so we're gonna wrap up. It's about 8 o'clock, at least the live show. If anybody wants to say anything before we close it out for the audience on YouTube, now's your opportunity. If you haven't got to
Yeah,
say
sure.
anything all show, go ahead.
So here's Cavendish's journal. or his experiment. Within that is going to be where he manipulates a number of things. I'm still trying to find it specifically, but if we're going to be cutting out, I'll provide a link for now if someone else wants to look
I'd like
for
to
it.
say one thing also, guys.
I've read
When I
it a
did
few
my
times,
laser
that's why I
Umbra
said I
test, I
don't think
used
it's
2
in there.
lasers because the sun is supposed to have a little bit of an angle around the moon. So I used 2 lasers and I pulled them about an 1/8 of a mile down the road, and to where they stretched out, close to the size of the sun, and they both had a little bit of an angle around the moon, projecting on the Earth to see if then it would cause the Umbra. Because they say that the rays are not coming in completely 90 degrees; that they have a little bit of stretch, like a 0.046 or 0.496 degree angle around the Earth around the moon to get to the Earth. So I used 2 lasers. I still did not get an Umbra on the Earth that I projected. So I'd like to see somebody debunk my little experiment. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Cool. Thanks for joining the live show, everybody. I appreciate it. I will be back, and I will hit record on the after show. So just so you know that you're being recorded, because I'm not a slimy bastard who records people without their knowledge. I will be back. Thanks, guys. Thanks again for joining the panel. Really appreciate it. Okay. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. And Science Works in Mysterious Ways says this was a great show, considering, man, it was really good. Appreciate that, man. Glad you enjoyed it. And yeah, it was good stuff. An interesting discussion at the beginning of what we want from the show. And I was definitely listening and taking that to heart. We'll see what we can do. Always be improving, right? So we'll get there. But thank you guys. And we will see you tomorrow for Friday night. Somewhat of a fight. I didn't mean to rhyme there, but whatever. Anyway, we'll do the same thing tomorrow. All right. Have a good night, guys. Talk to you later. Oh, I forgot. Shout out to Second Best Bob, Dan Morris, and James for the super chats tonight. Thank you very much. Talk to you guys later.
Big